The story begins at night, in one of the multi-story buildings. A girl casually types something on the keyboard at night. She is all alone in an empty office at night. Meanwhile, a certain creature was walking along the corridor. The unsuspecting girl was sipping coffee when she suddenly heard footsteps. From that moment on, she wanted to understand who was behind the door. There was silence in response, and no one answered her. Sighing with relief, the lady thought that she had worked herself up to auditory hallucinations, and she continued to work on her project. But all this time, a certain entity was making its way along the corridor. With slow steps she moved closer and closer to her goal. Loud steps were heard more and more. This began to worry the girl. She looked at the door again and started screaming, asking who was behind the door. Unable to bear what was happening, she abruptly stood up from her workplace. And with a quick step she began to approach the door where the sound came from. Very quickly the lady got to the door and opened it sharply, because she believed that with such jokes people could be scared to death. What she saw horrified her and filled her with fear. After all, there was absolutely nothing behind the door that could make such sounds. Only the wind was blowing along the corridor, and the girl decided to call someone. The frightened woman called, but in response only beeps were heard. A moment later, a girl picked up the phone and asked a woman named Lee why she was calling so late. Lee answered the girl named Sia that she was late at work, but there were always shadows and strange steps from the direction of the stairs. Trembling with fear, the girl said that as soon as she approached the door, everything immediately disappeared, but then reappeared, and this frightened her. A few seconds later, footsteps were heard through the door again. Sia told the girl on the phone that no matter what happened, she should immediately get out of there and return home quickly, and also asked her not to hang up. The woman in the office was afraid to be alone, and thought that perhaps she was imagining it, and in fact there was no one else in the office. A few tens of minutes later, the girl was already on the threshold of her house. Lee was grateful to Sai for talking to her and supporting her in a difficult situation until this time. They had already said goodbye, and the girl was getting ready to go to bed to rest. At the same second, the worried girl again heard footsteps coming from the direction of the door. The volume of footsteps grew stronger and stronger with each passing second. The girl was dumbfounded by what she heard. She didn't know what to do or where to go. Panic overcame her, and she could not say a word on the phone. And in front of the frightened lady a terrible creature appeared, which opened the door on its own and closely watched the girl. The girl was able to scream that the creature was in her apartment and through her phone. In a panic, Lee fell to the floor and continued to scream that this creature was chasing her. Saya continued to talk, trying to find out what happened to the girl. As it turned out, Li Huan disappeared. There were 15 missing people in total. In recent months several disappearances have occurred in succession in the city. All of the disappeared have several common features. A certain man told the police that there was one expression left from the construction industry, which was left over from our grandfathers, namely to wall up alive. It is in this meaning that it is rarely used. It is indecent to say so they usually use the phrase hide in the wall. Judging by what was said, the police also heard about this. This is just a feudal prejudice, ignorance of prejudices, a bad habit from ancient times, from God himself, the patron saint of builders, and do they really think now that the incident on that bridge could have been avoided by walling up the person, the man said. The man decided that this is not so. One person will clearly not be enough. This bridge is very bad. One person will definitely not be enough. Several people need to be walled up in different places. This is the only way the bridge will stand. According to the interrogation protocol, the registration records transferred to help the facility contained 212 excerpts of video recordings from cameras, an examination of bridge construction techniques, an expert report of vehicles, a memory card with recordings of vehicle movements and data on people affected by the disaster. In total there were 52 people. Events continued to occur in the evening at 2300 hours, February 2nd. An ordinary young man named Fang Zheng walked down the corridor, but heard his neighbor arguing with her friend. The crash could be heard throughout the hallway, even though the girls were arguing within the confines of the room. Fang Zheng at that moment realized that the two crazy neighbors next door were arguing again in the middle of the night. As soon as the hero pulled the handle on the door to his apartment, he saw something interesting. The neighbor in whose apartment the scandal took place spoke on the phone and was told that there was movement at the crime scene again. In response, the girls said that this was the 16th missing person. A puzzled girl walked along the corridor and looked intently at the hero. I'm a little nervous." At that moment the guy realized that someone was missing. Suddenly, the girl suddenly stopped. The lady turned around to tell the guy not to go outside after sunset. The guy realized that it turned out to be a new neighbor who had recently moved. She was a police officer. She had been living here for half a month, but he had seen her for the first time. The hero realized that it seemed the officer was not joking. Lately a lot of supernatural things have been leaking onto the internet, but this is quickly deleted. Scrolling through sites on the internet, one might think that the world was inhabited by ghosts. The more someone wants to hide something, the more suspicious it looks. Pages with suspicious content were immediately removed as soon as they appeared on the site. As soon as strange phenomena arose, like people controlling fire, or superheroes with incredible powers, or even superfast people who moved incredibly fast, as soon as it got on any site, it was immediately deleted. Suddenly, the guy started receiving messages on his phone. This caused surprise, because it was night. The messages said that something was wrong with the moon and the hero should look outside. Not understanding what happened, the hero was at first surprised because he thought that some kind of nonsense was said in the messages. But he didn't care, because in any case he should get some fresh air. As soon as Fang Zheng opened the window, he saw a huge blood-red moon. He saw this for the first time, and this phenomenon shocked him. A moment later, one of his books suddenly began to glow. As soon as the guy looked at the book and again out the window, the blood-red moon had already disappeared. Taking a book from the shelf, the hero thought that maybe it was because of that dusty book that he bought at a discount on the internet, and it was somehow connected with the blood moon. Opening the book, the guy discovered something very unusual. The find that was found looked like a page from some kind of manuscript, and it was made of leather. Having picked up the found object, the hero thought that perhaps this particular manuscript was glowing. From that moment on, Fang Zheng wanted to study it in more detail, but unfortunately, after examining the object for 2 hours, he made no progress in his research. Sweating profusely, he thought that maybe that girl from the pharmacy was right. His night sweats and insomnia were the result of kidney deficiency, and he was also hallucinating. And he probably should still take the medicine. The pills were intended to treat kidney deficiency, and cannot lead to night sweats, decreased desire and much more. After taking one pill, Fang Zheng felt that it didn't taste the same as before. The pill was as smooth as silk and quickly melted when put in his mouth. Instantly he had an unusual feeling. His kidneys seemed to begin to explode, and an incredible roar was heard. And then they completely blew it up, and the whole room was engulfed in bright light. From powerlessness and what happened, the guy immediately fell to the ground. In pain, he tried to understand what had happened. Strange phenomena began to appear before him again. He saw an open-air food stall down the street, which belonged to Old Man Wang, flying in front of him, and the hero himself was in a saucepan. His body was replaced by a cancer body, and he was in boiling water. In pain, he thought he was about to explode. Fang Zheng screamed and called for his mother, because he did not want to lose his life in boiling water. Suddenly, someone started poking him with a spoon, and introduced himself as Old Man Wang, and asked him to hurry up and stop. And soon, he began to stir the cancer hero, who was almost boiled. The guy woke up in a cold sweat. It was just a bad dream. Looking out the window, he saw a bright light and it was already morning. With a sigh of relief, he realized that it was just a dream. Having sniffed himself, the hero also wanted to understand why he stank so much. Last night he sweated a lot. He had to wash for a very long time before he was finally able to get rid of this stench. The whole thing was very strange. He even fainted suddenly. Perhaps that bottle of Lu Wei Dihuang pills was counterfeit or something like that. Fang Zheng should get checked out at the hospital. He himself needs to be careful in case his life is at stake. The taxi driver turned to the guy and asked him not to worry about going to the hospital. 9 out of 10 men get hemorrhoids, and then a good half of them are already on the operating table, and the other is at the anorectal doctor. And the young man treating the doctor in the anorectal ward of the People's Hospital, Dr. Sun Ji, was very good. Meanwhile, the hero was watching the news using his phone. Yesterday he saw mystical phenomena that were published, but now they were impossible to find. He saw the news that the central building of Zhou City Hospital was blocked by the authorities. This morning someone reported that a video of an old monk in Taoist robes entering the building, as if there were ghosts in the building. Fang Zheng read this news and realized that he was now heading to Zhou City Hospital. Some time later, he was already near the hospital. Looking at the entrance, he did not understand what to do next. Looking around, he saw that this place looked completely normal. The guy almost shit his pants because of the news he saw. In his pocket, the newly found artifact began to glow brightly. Seeing this, he had absolutely no idea what was happening. It frightened him, as if some kind of pulsating aura was in his pocket. An unknown object incredibly quickly began to fly right next to the hero. And he crashed right into the artifact that was found in the book. It was some kind of devilry. Looking around again, Fang Zheng realized that he was the only person who could see all this. Trembling with fear, the guy realized that he was trapped, and did not understand whether he was truly possessed. Suddenly, someone behind started calling the guy. This guy asked if Fang Zheng needed help. The man did not look like an ordinary security guard. His physique was similar to that of a soldier. The man asked if the hero came here to meet the doctor. Fang Zheng immediately admitted that he was here to see one of the attending doctors from the anorectal department, Dr. Song Ji. The mysterious man asked him to go through, it was Area C, and then asked over the radio if there was a doctor named Dr. Song Ji in the hospital. And then, the man invited the guy to go inside, but the hero was in no hurry to do so. And he began to talk about how the first person who realized that cow's milk could be drunk did something with a cow to understand this. In this case, Fang Zheng had another question, the first person to understand anorectal position, what was done to this man. Fang Zheng began to run away, and shouted that he had finally managed to think about everything, and he did not think that after everything he would go to Dr. Song Ji, and said goodbye to the man. It turned out that the hospital was indeed cordoned off by the authorities, and if he went inside, he would be like a sheep walking straight into the mouth of a tiger, who knows what other troubles the scripture on human skin will bring. Suddenly, a man started running near the hero and stepped right on his foot. The running man apologized and gave something as compensation that the hero could take for free. These were some records called the inviolable golden shield, the golden seal of a warrior and the true body of an arhat. The hero shouted to the merchant that he would not accept these obviously fake books as compensation, but the merchant insisted that he take them and run, but was careful not to confiscate them. Some time later, the guy came home and thought that he was unlucky today. Not only was he unable to see a doctor because of his condition, but he also got hit in the leg. Looking at the artifact, the hero again discovered something unusual. One of the runes on the ancient letter glowed. It had taken him several hours of concentrated research last night to realize that it had been taken from a dead man, and perhaps it was something dead turning into something alive. Realizing what a terrible letter fell into his hands, the guy understood that he was an unlucky person. While examining the books that were gifted by the merchant, one of them was called The True Body of the Arhat. This old rogue threw these books into his hands. Seeing something incredible, the hero jumped in fear because he saw the scroll glow again. At that moment he realized that one of the runes was missing. She simply disappeared from his sight, and she was no longer on the scroll. Fang Zheng screamed in fear and dropped the book. The book that the old merchant gave began to glow, and its pages turned over on their own. Seeing what was happening, Fang Zheng thought that the technique that appeared in this light could be a true divine technique. Even the title of the book had changed, now written in gilded font. After reading part of the book, the hero discovered that this manuscript is capable of turning things into gold. And also, perhaps, if all the runes light up, then he will be able to pierce the heavens. With wonder and worry in his heart, he began to cultivate the therefore updated volume. The Golden Impervious Arhat is a technique of supreme vitality and strength. Practicing this technique will make his bones like steel, improve his blood, allow his flesh to break free from his immortal shackles and will allow him to turn into a golden untouchable Arhat. Unexpectedly, after just an hour, he was able to easily unlock 306 golden Arhat poses. Unlocking all the poses should have taken him at least 10 years. This was all because of the Lu Wei Dihuang pills he took last night. The pills were also enhanced and therefore his body was also strengthened. Using the hormonal surge in the kidneys, he was able to unlock all the poses 5 times. Additionally, in this short period of time, he gained about 10 years worth of power, which is truly impressive. Not surprisingly, Tom warns that this technique should only be practiced at noon, as before the internal heat reaches its maximum, otherwise, sooner or later, an accident is sure to occur. The rune that lit up in the scripture might have something to do with the grey chi mark he had seen in the hospital. Fang Zheng realized at that moment that he needed to return to the hospital tonight, then there would be no people and he could check everything. Events continued to happen in the evening. The hero received a call from his old acquaintance. He wanted to offer the guy an opportunity to earn money and live the life of a celebrity for a while. The payment was 200 yuan per day and lunch would be provided for free. Also, the guy will have the opportunity to meet goddess Qianqi. Fang Zheng immediately replied that he thought that his friend's goddess was the director who suddenly started working at his mother's university 6 months ago. In any case, the hero was not interested in the offer his friend gave him, and he hung up because it was time for him to get down to business. The hero ordered a taxi, and it was already on its way. Hearing the loud car engine, the guy immediately turned around. The car was driving at great speed and began to drift right in front of Fang Zhen, and then she immediately stopped next to the guy. He stood in a stupor, and did not know at all what to say to him. The driver looked at the hero indifferently, and he was sorry that Fan was not a girl. I don't know what to answer. The guy continued to stand silently, and the driver asked him if he had ordered an online taxi service. As Fan continued to remain silent, the driver shouted whether he was going to the city hospital. The delighted guy continued to look at the car and asked the major whether it was a Lamborghini or this. The driver was a rich man himself, and got a job in an online taxi in order to pick up girls. The driver asked if the hero knew what kind of car this was, but the guy was a poor child from the village. He only found out what kind of car it was judging by the logo. It was a Lamborghini Aventador. The driver asked not to touch it so that the guy wouldn't scratch the paint, otherwise he wouldn't be able to pay for the repairs, even if he sold his house, and the best configuration costs about 10 million. Suddenly, Fang Zheng, touching the rear view glass, accidentally broke it. At this moment, the hero did not know what to do and looked at the broken rear view glass. Fan turned to the major and asked whether the rear view mirrors of supercars should be like toys so that they could be broken so easily. Indignant, the driver began to scream and be indignant, and the glass broke. In an instant, the hero was able to remove the wheel. The car really seemed like a toy, and you could remove parts at your discretion, as expected from a luxury car. Such technology is truly incredible. Literally any part of the car could be easily removed and separated from the car. While removing another part of the car, the driver called the hero a bastard. The major was extremely angry, and believed that his mother and father raised Fang Zhen in vain for him to do such stupid things. Suddenly, the hero handed the major his phone because he wanted to show him something. As it turns out, he was already in the news. Last night a mechanic working in a car repair shop stole a client's luxury car and drove onto a mountain road. He lost control during a sharp turn and rammed a road guardrail. This angered the scoundrel even more, and the veins on his face began to swell with anger. With a sharp movement of his foot, he pressed the gas pedal to the floor, and he immediately started driving straight towards the hero. His body was literally burning with anger, and he shouted that the guy could have told him all this from the very beginning. From the very beginning he played with him and simply mocked him. The driver ordered the hero to prepare to meet his creator. Suddenly, the indignant driver noticed that his steering wheel had disappeared somewhere, and he was already in Fang Zhen's hands. Looking at the hero, the driver did not understand what the hell was going on here, and when the hell he took the steering wheel. And if the driver wanted to pick it up, then he first had to go to Fang Zhen and pick it up. As the hero thought, it seems that his guess is correct. This machine has swallowed up his life. He cannot leave it, and has become one with the machine. It's similar to people who lose their lives at sea and can only exist because of the ghost ship, and those who lose their lives in the water can only become water spirits. The ghost that lives in the apartment can only stay in that apartment. They cannot go and destroy people wherever they want, and he turned out to be a ghost driver. The ghost driver wanted to find out who this guy really is, whether he is also a Superman, and one of those who have awakened. The hero smiled at the ghost and said that he had guessed right. At that moment the hero thought that fortunately he began dismantling his car as soon as he arrived, otherwise the hero would have been in an awkward position. But in any case, now the ghost is nothing more than just a way to gain experience. Meanwhile, the ghost driver realized that this was bad, and he also realized that it was time to run, after which he disappeared from the place, driving away in his car. One of the wheels made it impossible to drive. The ghost realized that he was a hero and removed one of the wheels. Without ceasing, the impudent ghost continued to drive, and destroyed the asphalt under the wheels, because one of the wheels was missing. He was in danger because the car could not drive fully. A moment later, a bright light shone at the place where the car was driving. The car began to overturn very quickly and she got into an accident. A completely broken and expensive Lamborghini stood in the middle of the roadway. The ghost was sitting on a car seat, and was completely immobilized. Suddenly, he saw something that he could not expect. Someone was running towards the car, and he had something in his hands. At this moment, the ghost thought about what he needed to do, and perhaps the best solution would be to pretend to be dead. Literally a second later, Fang Zheng took the huge reinforcement in his hands and began to attack the ghost driver. With a powerful blow using metal fittings, he hit the car directly. In this way he wanted to neutralize the impudent ghost. After performing the attack, the ghost still looked at the hero, as if he did not feel the attack at all. When the guy touched the ghost, his hand began to burn. Then the ghost realized that it turned out that he was not awakened, but just an ordinary person who was a little smarter than others. It is true that he cannot leave his car, but he is a Superman, awakened. He does not even need to do anything. This flame itself can take the life of a hero, within a few seconds. As soon as the ghost asked him to hit him, the hero immediately began using magic to heal the wound that the ghost left him. Seeing this, the frightened ghost began to retreat and said that he was just joking. Fang Zhen could not stop, since he was told to hit, so he would do a favor to the impudent ghost. Immediately after the impact, the car flew into the air and seemed to explode. The indestructible guy used all the power he studied in the ancient books. In pain, the ghost screamed that he had screwed up. If he could still shed tears, he would probably cry right now. With an incredibly large number of blows, the hero continued to destroy the fiery ghost. Each blow was stronger than the previous one, because the blows were made using magic. Having collected all the strength and energy in one blow, having completed it, the car seemed to break into two parts. And the ghost driver screamed furiously in pain, experiencing incredible agony. Having taken this blow upon himself, the ghost flew incredibly far from his car. At that very moment the hero realized that this is the same gray chi that he saw in the hospital once. In order to check this, the guy took out an artifact. He guessed that the scripture on the skin absorbs gray chi and makes the runes glow. This meant that the source of the gray chi was the Superman he had just defeated. Thus, he must find the original source of the appearance of gray chi and destroy it as quickly as possible. However, first, he must hurry up and leave this place. He definitely cannot afford for his secret to be found out. Because this ghost driver's fate has just given him a warning that keeping his powers secret is the way to success, he shouldn't be too impulsive and use them when they're not needed. To remain unnoticed, he turned down the road a bunch of times, and finally arrived at the Zhou City Municipal Hospital. Once in the hospital, the guy examined every room. But unfortunately, after spawning here all night, he found nothing. It was as if the sulfur chi he saw last time in the hospital was here by accident. It appears every day, and now he should go home and cultivate rather than waste time. Some time later, the hero arrived at his home. Sighing heavily, he realized that he had wasted the whole night. Fortunately, he managed to destroy the ghostly driver, and now another rune has glowed, and he has acquired another opportunity to become stronger. Right now, brute strength is the only thing he has. He can fight like a thug and that's it. It definitely won't work next time. Therefore, his goal this round is to improve his combat tactics. To do this, the hero wants to study the Golden Seal of the Warrior. The Golden Warrior Seal comes from the Buddhist scripture called the Golden Warrior Sutra. It is used to fight demons and evil spirits, and is also one of the secret techniques of Buddhism. The Golden Seal of the Exorcist Warrior is not just a martial technique, it is a secret method for the practice of Buddhist tantras. It is specifically designed for cultivating the three flames in the human body. When the three flames burn brightly and a person's vital energy is strong, a person's yen qi will naturally prevent evil from entering the body. As long as he has both of these volumes, one for offense and the other for defense, even if he encounters more difficult situations in the future, he should be able to handle them. However, the contents of these updated volumes seemed so appropriate, as if they were created specifically to combat the terrible, supernatural things that had begun to happen recently. Moreover, even the gray chi that is absorbed by the sacred writing, its source is just as terrible. It seems that this world has changed, it has become stranger and more ridiculous. Thus, this world was no longer peaceful. That ghost driver, the cousin of Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, he was a Superman or just a ghost. The hero spent the whole night learning the Exorcist Warrior's Golden Seal technique, but he was not tired at all, but what is even more surprising is that by the time the morning came, his body and spirit had advanced upward. One morning's training was more fruitful than many night workouts. But unfortunately, all this training still left him very hungry. Previously, when he practiced the Golden Arhat, he was hungry like a wolf. This time the hunger is not so strong, but it is still unbearable, and the hero wanted to go to some restaurant. Walking along the corridor, the guy discovered that one of the doors had opened, and suddenly, someone said the name Fong Zheng. It was one of the students who lives next door, and she told the hero to come downstairs, because they would have breakfast. Fan was already going to the store and asked what the girls should buy. The lady laughed and then thanked brother Fong Zheng. Suddenly, another girl looked out and also said that she wanted to eat something. At this moment, the hero became embarrassed. He thought that he did not feel such fear, even when he was dealing with a ghost driver, and believed that women are the real horrors of this world. Immediately after this, the guy began to leave. Watching the girls as they walked out the door, the guy thought that they were both evil seductresses. Events continued to happen on the street. Walking along a busy road, the hero saw that the guy was sitting on the side of the road, as if he was drunk. But it didn't matter. Right now he didn't have time to worry about others, he needed to focus on filling his stomach. A few minutes later, the hero arrived at the cafe where he wanted to get some food. Meanwhile, the employees were communicating with each other in the cafe. The manager turned to the employee named Xiao He because the man wanted the guy to just keep his eyes on the hero at table 16. If he dared to hide even one bone or lose even one piece of food, then Xiao would immediately need to report to the manager. Embarrassed, Xiao thought that they shouldn't worry about someone hiding chicken bones. He didn't think he had any bones left to hide. The guy at table 16 ate like a hungry wolf. He ate chicken meat and bones, among other things, crabs too. He ate them whole, shell and all. His jaw was in such good shape that when the manager looked at him, his teeth hurt. A minute later, the hero was already leaving the buffet, and the staff watching Fong Zhen considered him a hungry ghost who came to their restaurant because of his immodest appetite. The manager ordered Xiao He to remember this guy. If he ever came back, they would immediately close for the day. Walking down the street, the hero thought that every time, after cultivation, he gets up hungry, like a wolf, and after that he needs to eat for 6 or 7 hours, and this takes too much time. He's been blacklisted from almost every restaurant and buffet in the area. It's so bad that he has to try not to be recognized. Events continued to occur at night. Fan continued to walk down the street, and realized that although it was true that he had eaten too much today, this did not justify them immediately closing and kicking him out. Walking down the street, he noticed the man again. This morning he bought him breakfast, and he disappeared. It is safe to assume that he ate it. But then it was not entirely clear why he was sitting here. After the hero took a closer look at him, he felt like he was scared half to death. It's definitely strange, but it's probably not worth asking him directly. Approaching the other people, Fan asked if they knew what was happening to this man. This guy didn't listen to them at all. It was quite cold outside at this time. If he kicked back here, they would be partly to blame. The hero suggested that the man might be afraid of something. For example, a lone shark might be hunting him, or maybe he was on the wrong side of the mafia, and therefore did not dare to go home. Fong Jing suddenly saw one very unusual detail. The man, sitting alone and confused, began to talk on the phone. What he heard on the phone horrified him incredibly. Out of fear, he ran up to the hero and begged him to save his mother, because some woman came right to where he lived. She was in his apartment next to his mother. It was a ghost. Someone came back to life, namely a woman who had lost her life and was right now in his apartment. All the men who heard this were shocked by what was happening in the strange guy's house. When the man spoke about ghosts at night, not only people listened to him, but ghosts too. The hero immediately took Captain Lu's scooter because he wanted to go with the guy to the police station to report this matter. This was also a good opportunity for Fong Zheng to find out whether the ghosts were the source of the gray qi or not. And then the guy called a strange man to also climb on the scooter, and they went to save his mother. Fong Zheng was not a fool to get involved in all this. Some things must be done secretly. He must also get a clear picture of what is happening. Together they walked towards his mother's house. Having hugged the hero, the man felt safe and calmed down a little. At high speed they drove to the house of the frightened man. But all this time the man himself thought that they were going to the local police station. At the same time, this confused the man, because it was a long drive from the police station to his apartment. And they decided that it would be better to immediately rush to his home to save the life of his mother. The strange man was surprised, because he did not expect that the hero actually believed him, because he did not expect that anyone could believe in the existence of ghosts. Feng Zheng also told him that if ghosts really exist in this world, it happened that he had already killed one of them a few days ago. The frightened man was surprised once again. What the hero said was incredible. As it turns out, on March 2nd, a major accident involving several cars occurred on the Tongjiang Bridge in Zhou City. More than 50 people lost their lives. After 2 days of trial operation, they should have closed it immediately. Suddenly, it turns out that not only 50 people have lost their lives or so, more than 109 people have already been injured. Tongjiang Bridge is taking a new life every day. This bridge is connected to the gate of the underworld. With lightning speed the hero pressed the brake. After all, every day more and more people lost their lives, and Feng Zheng wanted to find out what kind of secrets were hidden related to this bridge. He began to question the man, and wanted to find out what exactly happened to him, and why he could not describe it. It was noticeable that the strange man began to get nervous, but at the same time, the hero ordered him to speak immediately. The man's name was Sun Yushu. His parents were entrepreneurs. All his life, girls revolved around him. However, he was not interested in them at all. They were naive, uninteresting, and spoiled. When he was in high school, he liked girls who were in their 20s. When he was in college, he liked mature girls who were over 30 years old. He liked their empathy, tenderness, and wisdom. After he graduated from college and returned to the city, he realized that he could not contain his passion for older women. Each woman was older than the last, and eventually he began to look for middle-aged women, those over 40 years old. However, his parents were worried about him, and they began to rush him to get married. They set him up on various blind dates, but in his eyes, these young girls could not compare at all with mature middle-aged women. During the Lunar New Year, his family set up a blind date with a girl named Jiajia, but when he walked into the girl's house, he was shocked, because he discovered that he was dating her mother. Her name was Zheng Mei. She was a housewife, and her husband traveled a lot. He went on many dates with her, and they got along very well. Every date was unforgettable. Feng Zheng, listening to this story, would never have guessed that Sun Yushu was such a person. Sun not only dated his daughter, but also slept with his wife, so he didn't think he could meet him, his future father-in-law. Then, his heart was a mess and he didn't know what to do. However, the next day, on the day of the Lantern Festival, Zheng Mei's body, bloated after being immersed in water, appeared on his table in the hospital. The girl was returning to the village to visit her parents, and on the way back, she had an accident on the Tongjia Bridge. The guy worked as a forensic doctor, and it was he who examined her, the woman he loved and held in his arms personally. A truly touching story made the guy cry for days on end. He couldn't control himself. But the hero was interested in what was happening specifically with the Tongjiang Bridge, but Song was an ordinary forensic expert and did not know the true secrets of the bridge. Sighing heavily, the guy realized that this was a duty of fate. Worried, Sun begged the hero to help. He did not want his family members to be in danger, because the girl who ended up in the hospital has already lost her life because of this danger. But she was resurrected, and a knock was heard in one of the rooms of his house. Sun heard this and wanted to understand where the knocking was coming from. He came closer and decided to look into the pupil of the door. Through the pupil one could see someone's eye, which was looking intently at the guy. He was terrifying, bulging, and could frighten anyone who saw him in such a situation. Falling from fright, the guy thought that it was just a joke, and wanted to find out who could joke with him like that. Song called the property managers and they sent security people to come and check. However, they did not find anyone suspicious, and the pupil on the doors was also normal. But after the guards left, he returned to his apartment and heard another knock on the door. Listening to the unbearable knocking, he decided to try to open the door and see what was behind it. Walking out the door, he shouted that the creature would really continue to pursue him. But in response there was only silence. No one answered him. Suddenly, he discovered something terrifying near his door. A certain creature that was closely watching him with its eyes. At the same time, one of his colleagues called him and said that Liang Jiangan, who worked in the same department as him, had died. His body was found in the toilet of the room he was staying in, and apparently he had lost his life with a terrible death. There was nothing on his face except 2 holes. Someone had taken his eyes. Upon hearing this news, the man fell into a stupor, sweat ran down his face, and he was dumbfounded by what was happening. Having come to his senses a little, he immediately began to run quickly. Approaching the elevator, he quickly began to press the elevator call button in order to leave this house as soon as possible. Someone was knocking loudly in the elevator, and at that moment the man realized that the creature was approaching. The creature's hair spread across the elevator doors. The doors slowly opened, and the silhouette of the creature that was in the elevator was visible. It was a girl named Zheng Mei. The guy thought that she was here to take his life, and it was she who took the life of his mentor. The scary girl just looked at him with her squinted eyes and coughed. Meanwhile, the guys approached the building where Sun lived. The guy wanted to call his mother first to make sure she was safe. As they approached the apartment, they began knocking on the door. There was an intense cold through the door, it was like being stung by electricity. But no one came to the door or opened it. Fang Jing suddenly heard something. He felt the smell of damp earth nearby, and also the stench of rotten fish. Song couldn't smell it, and Fang Jing told him not to worry. If he couldn't smell it, then he shouldn't worry about it. At the same time, the hero thought whether he was adding unnecessary trouble to himself, but in any case, he couldn't risk it and wasn't going to use himself as cannon fodder. After opening the door, Sun started screaming and calling for his mom because he wanted to know if she was okay or not. Near the door there was only a lot of hair, which gradually began to approach the guys. Fang Jing asked Suna if he was sure that he did not smell any strange smell. The two scariest things in life are when it suddenly gets quiet and when a friend suddenly appears out of nowhere showing concern for you. If that doesn't mean your friend is trying to borrow money from you, then it means your life is about to be taken from you. Sun's mother came out to meet him and greet him. Breathing a sigh of relief, he saw that it was indeed Sun Yushu's mother. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a creature appeared. It was terrifying, and it was right behind the mother. This was exactly what Zheng Mei was. The smells that Fang Jing smelled earlier, the smell of damp earth and rotten fish, most likely did not come from her. The hero at that moment realized that he was the only one who could smell this smell. If Zheng Mei wanted to harm Sun Yushu's mother, she would have done it long ago. The mother suddenly drew attention to the hero and said that her son was talking about her, that he was the same colleague about whom the son spoke on the phone, a young man who looked very decent, just like Sun. Suddenly, Sun began to quickly shake his head, and did not understand what was happening here. It turned out that Sun Yushu's mother had arranged a date with Zheng Mei's daughter, which means that the two women must have known each other, and Sun Yushu probably did not tell his mother about Zheng Mei's death, which is why the deceased Zheng Mei appeared again. In the eyes of Sun Yushu's mother, the ghost was still like a living person. Immediately after this, their mother invited them to come into the house and have something to drink, because she had just discussed everything with Jiejia's mother about how best to receive Sun. This alarmed the guy, because he understood that this was impossible. A good-natured elderly woman handed everyone a mug of tea. Hearing that they were coming, Jiejia's mother said that she was making really good fish soup. She would cook it for them as a great lunch, and Fang Jing would be in for a real treat. An unknown creature began to go to the kitchen because it had prepared fish soup. The situation amazed the guys because they did not expect that the dead man would be preparing fish soup for them. The living ghost began to prepare fish soup to treat the guests. This had to be the most delicious fish soup of their lives. Wary, the guys continued to watch as the ghost prepared them delicious food. Yushu's mother began to tell Yushu that he was no longer as young as a man. Once he turned 27, even a dog would be uncomfortable with him not being married, and she had already begun to treat Jiejia's mother as a mother-in-law. Fang Jing, listening to all this, was amazed, because his mother was talking about this, when she had a dead man cooking food in her kitchen. The living dead prepared dishes that she served on the chair. It was an incredible extravagance. The whole table was filled with delicious and smelling fish. Well, as soon as this smell mixed with the stench of rotten fish that comes from Zheng Mei, Fang Jing felt as if something was stuck in his throat. Before coming here, he thought about all kinds of dangerous situations that he could face. However, he never expected that dinner would be prepared by an unknown creature. It is said that if the deceased is not one of the ancestors or immediate relatives, then no one should eat the food he prepared. If this is done, the vital force will be weakened and life expectancy will be shortened, and this is the woman trying to use this method against them. Instead, the hero could fight her directly, but in this small, enclosed space, it would be impossible not to hurt Sun Yushu and his mother. But suddenly, something terrible happened. The ghost stood right next to the hero, and he asked her to sit down. Since these are her signature dishes, then they will definitely have to try everything. He can't just ignore all the love that she put into these dishes. Now that he was next to her, he felt even colder, as if he were near the refrigerator, and in order to avoid this, the guy quickly began to eat all the food. Song looked at everything that was happening, and thought that Fang Zheng had already given up, as if the ghost had possessed him, and he had turned into a starving ghost. This was the end. The guy could no longer count on a hero. It also looked like Song wouldn't be able to escape this either. If it means saving his mother, then he will do whatever it takes. Suddenly, Fang Zheng told the guy not to touch it, and began to snatch the fish from his chopsticks. And he immediately took the fish into his mouth, because carp is his favorite fish. This surprised Sun even more, and he continued to watch in amazement as Fan ate everything on the table. It was like he wasn't just a starving ghost, he had turned into an absolutely gluttonous monster. Who the hell eats fish without even getting a bone? Isn't he afraid of turning into a sea urchin? A moment later, all the plates were empty. Fang Zheng told Auntie May that her cooking was really delicious. Before he realized it, he had already finished everything himself. Because of him, none of them tried anything, and he was really sorry. The hero also asked Aunt May to cook more, and promised that this time he would definitely eat less. Sun shouted that Fang might want to die, but he wanted them all to survive. As soon as the ghost left, Song continued to insist that Fang Zheng stop while he was still ahead, because here he was trying his best not to eat May's cooking, and the hero asked her to cook more. Having listened to the guy's request, the ghost began preparing food again. After a few tens of minutes, the food was ready again. She was all standing on the table, and the hero turned to Aunt May because he noticed that her face had turned pale. Also, she was walking somehow swaying back and forth, as if she was tired, and Fan wondered if she was okay. Sun at that moment was thinking that this guy could really eat all these dishes, but he had already eaten dozens of dishes, and even forced a dead man to become his cook. May had to cook so much that both of her hands went numb and her face turned pale. The whole scene got a little twisted. It started out as a horror movie and now suddenly turned into a multifaceted cooking show. Unexpectedly, Sun remembered one detail and turned to his mother. One day she had a fish bone stuck in her throat, after which she did not like to eat fish. As a result, their family buys fish very rarely, and it was unknown why there is so much fish in their house today, and so many different species: common carp, white amur, northern snakehead, almost any freshwater fish you can think of. The mother realized that this was indeed the case, and was thinking about where all these fish came from. Meanwhile the clock was 11 p.m. A few hours later, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. The ghost fell exhausted in the kitchen. Fang Zheng was shouting into the kitchen at that moment. What happened to Aunt May? Why did she fall to her knees? Was she okay, and did she need help getting up? Approaching his aunt, the guy addressed her that she had worked hard today, and that's why she should get a good rest. A moment later, the ghost realized who the hero really was. With one blow, the phantom was almost destroyed. Her body was damaged. Furiously, the ghostly woman began to scream in pain, and from her body many varieties of fish, which she had prepared earlier, began to fall out. Soon, it began to evaporate completely and glowed with a bright light. Having completely evaporated, the hero was assigned one gray chi. After destroying the ghost, Fang Zheng realized that the gray fathers came from the ghosts. The fish came from the ghost's body because her car crashed and she drowned. The fishy taste began to creep up his throat, and the hero began to feel ill. What he thought was fresh fish, in fact. He began to run towards the toilet. Although what he ate was completely consumed by the mystical solar fire in his body, he still felt bad. If he could have done this from the beginning, he would have preferred to fight until he was bruised instead to get such an injury. You have to deal with it for the rest of your life. Some time later, events continued to occur in Zheng Mei's area. Sun Yushu was worried about Zheng Mei's family, so he insisted on dragging Fang Zhen here and checking on them. However, there is no smell of dirt and rotten fish, so it seems that she never came here, and all her family members are safe and sound unharmed. He spent almost the whole night on this, and believes that it can be said that he completely solved Sun's problem for him. Fortunately, Sun gave the hero a bank card with 60,000 yuan as compensation. This helps alleviate the injury somewhat. In 4 short days, he encountered 2 supernatural events. If normal people encountered such events, then they would not be able to survive, and if he wants to survive, he urgently needs to become stronger. If he wants to become much stronger, he must collect everything more gray qi. Out of fatigue, Fang Zheng decided to relax a little and look on the internet to see if anything strange had happened recently. Suddenly, in one of the news, he discovered that there might be ghosts in the city hospital. Instantly, on his scooter, he began to ride towards this hospital, and a few minutes later he was already there, right at the main entrance to the hospital. Unexpectedly, he was credited with another +1 gray qi. This made the hero very happy. If you add to this the gray qi he received yesterday, and this is the first time he successfully obtained qi in such a short period of time. It looked like this hospital was truly an absolute treasure trove. Fang Zheng was going to spend the day observing this place, and he had a feeling that he would find more gray qi here. Events continued to occur the next morning near Zhou City Hospital. The hero did not detect any more gray qi tonight, although he supposed that was to be expected. However, at least he confirmed something: the gray qi definitely came from the ghosts. And these guards at the hospital doors are not at all like ordinary guards. These guys are actually more like well-trained and well-disciplined soldiers. The guy wanted to know what it all meant and what secrets were hidden in this Zhou City Hospital. A second later, it dawned on him. Perhaps there is a special agency in Zhou City that deals with supernatural events, such as the Supernatural Investigation Bureau or the Special Incident Investigation Bureau. Sun Yushu called the hero's phone and said that even more victims had been found. Just now, among the members of their department who took part in the forensic examination of the people who lost their lives on the Tongjian Bridge, 4 of them were found unconscious. It turns out that the matter was far from over, and Zheng Mei was only the beginning. And also, just now a group of soldiers came to the building where Song works and the victims from the Tongjiang Bridge. Soon after the soldiers left, another group of people came. They looked like soldiers, and as soon as they arrived, they started asking how they were doing lately, and if anything strange was going on around them. This is exactly what Fang Zheng had expected. Senior officials have long been in good control of the situation. There has always been a special agency such as the Supernatural Bureau. Currently, Song was under the watchful eye of a special agency, so he did not need to worry about his safety, but in order to avoid Fang's exposure, they would need to refrain from contact. The hero needs to make all the necessary preparations as quickly as possible, because he must prepare for the riots that are about to begin. Without further ado, the hero wanted to start learning a new technique called the Inviolable Shield, and transformed it into the Golden Swing Shield. As the name Mach or Great suggests, it is a powerful defensive technique. Once the technique is fully learned and used, the Golden Bell will cover and protect the entire body. Right now, he had finally completed his training in attack and defense techniques. Today, even in this strange and terrifying world, he would at least have the most basic ability to defend himself. At least if he faced Zheng Mei and her knife again, or perhaps even a human opponent who had a weapon in their hands, he would be confident that he could face them head-on. And if we talk about weapons, then he should improve this improvement on weapons as well, although he is not sure whether weapons can be upgraded or not. But also, the hero understood that it would most likely work. He just lacks a weapon. If he had one when he met Zheng Mei last night, he wouldn't have to feel so scared and completely empty, and he would have acted from the start. In order to find out what weapon he should use to eradicate evil, he asked a group of people with whom we corresponded. The hero was advised a demonic refining flask, a bell from the Eastern Emperor, and a sunbow, as well as a sky-cutting axe, a gum banner and other powerful weapons. But the guy asked me to recommend something that the average person can use, like something that can be easily found and obtained. The guy was advised that if he wants a weapon that can kill a ghost, which can be easily obtained, then he was advised to find a used butcher knife. Such knives contain thousands of souls, and he will definitely be able to get it. It is truly a good weapon. Going to the night market, the hero wanted to offer Old Man Wang a deal worth $1 million. The people standing in the market were amazed at what they saw, and they were amazed that Old Man Wang hired such a talented chef as Fang Zhen, who expertly chopped cucumbers with a cleaver. This was surprising because the work was incredibly fast, and so amazingly, because it was the power of the hands and the physique, even the men began to drool. Events continued at 2 o'clock in the morning. Old Man Wang thanked Fang Zhen because he had helped him a lot tonight. They had been living in the same area for many years, and the guy was only too happy to help the old man. Fang Zhen turned to the old man to ask if he knew any butchers or slaughterhouse workers. This was the $1 million deal. Suddenly, a very interesting thing came into his field of vision. A man in the old man's shop began pouring money into a basin of water. He placed the money in a strong detergent. The hero at that moment realized what money laundering actually looks like. The old man said that very strange things have been happening these past few days, and this has made many people go crazy. There was a boy who, having received some money, began to count it, and then his hands began to bleed. For the past few days, something strange has been happening among the owners of various food stalls in the night market. While counting money, they find their hands inexplicably stained with blood. However, they could not find any wounds on their hands, and the money was also clean. This must be because the money touched the blood of the deceased, so there was enmity left in them, and also, after their death, the deceased could not rest in peace, and it seems that he is extremely hostile, the old man said. Fang Zhen immediately realized that this is another supernatural event. In 5 days, he has encountered this for the 3rd time. If ordinary people, like old man Wang, encounter them, they will not be able to resist them, not fight them. Fear and anxiety, as well as passive acceptance of the situation, this is the only option they will have. The old man was amazed that the hero believed that such creatures exist in this world. He saw with his own eyes that because of this money, all the sellers here are currently on the verge. He really hoped that he would never encounter such things, but the thought this made him tremble. The worried old man didn't want to talk about it anymore because he still had 3 children to raise and he didn't think he could leave his stall. Events continued to happen at the Yufa farmers market. The guy thought that the old man had many connections. He told him to come here and find a butcher named Zhang Qiu. And the stall in question must be somewhere here. Lao Wang said that Butcher Zhang comes from a family of butchers. Apparently he is already over 30 years old, but he is still a bachelor. But the hero never expected that the butcher would look like this. He also saw that this guy was a master of his craft, so it had to be him. With those muscles, he looks more like a fitness trainer than a viceroy. Fang Zhen approached the butcher to talk to him, when suddenly someone interrupted him. It was a little girl whose mother was sick, and her grandmother said that meat was healthy and would help her mother recover. Seeing this, the hero thought about why such a little girl goes shopping alone. The girl cried and apologized because she asked to go first and buy meat, and repeated again that her mother was sick and she needed to eat meat. This child kept bowing and apologizing to the hero. The girl was so well-mannered, it even made him, a grown man, feel uncomfortable. Turning to the butcher, the hero asked for a piece of the softest tenderloin. As a sign that the girl is so sincere and caring, the hero gave her a piece of pork, and it was a gift for her. The child thanked the hero, but wanted to return him the money he spent. Fang Zhen politely refused the girl and asked her not to worry about it, because she could take this meat for free, and the guy hoped that her mother would get better soon. Mom told the girl named Chen Chen that she was good, and good children should be kind and generous. She should listen to mom, so she couldn't steal, and should return the money. And then, the girl bought pork from Fan, and the hero asked her to always be kind, and always listen to what her mother said. The sweet girl said goodbye to the hero and began to leave. She quickly ran to the exit with the bag in her hands. Looking at the girl, the guy thought that he should help her get home. Looking down and looking at his hands, he was shocked. Because the money he took from the girl was in her blood. Turning to the butcher, the guy told him that he would return to him later. There was clearly something wrong in this situation. Old man Wang said that money was in the blood of the dead to be offended. Some say that you who have lost your life cannot suppress your obsession, and the guy needs to check it out. Meanwhile, the girl was standing at the pedestrian crossing. She started running along the roadway to cross the pedestrian lane. Suddenly, the transport in front of her began to stop abruptly. It was a truck that almost hit a little defenseless girl. The girl started to run away and apologized to the truck driver. She was weak, pathetic and defenseless, and continued to stand and wait for her opportunity to pass the road. After which, she began to carefully cross again. Some time later, the girl still managed to cross the road. Watching this, the hero realized that everything was even stranger than he thought. Continuing to follow the girl, the guy noticed that she had come to her grandmother Sue. Grandmother praised her because Chen Chen is a good girl and a smart child. Rising to her house, the girl began to open the doors. Suddenly, an unknown creature began to appear through the doors. Through a small gap in the door, it seemed to seep out. Having opened the door slightly, the hero wanted to see what was happening in the apartment. What he discovered horrified him. The demon behind him gradually began to approach, stretching out his long dark arms. The evil spirits reached out to the hero to touch him. Suddenly, the hero heard shooting behind him. These were officers who wanted to withdraw all civilians from the area. The professionals arrived. Everyone in this family of 4 was deprived of life. There were still casualties above, and they urgently needed reinforcements. Fang Zhen immediately realized that he had let his guard down and become obsessed with seeing ghosts, but then it was not clear what it was when he entered the house. And these professionals looked like someone who might be part of some kind of supernatural investigation bureau. There was a sudden flash, and something began to fly towards the hero. It was gray chi that the hero was able to obtain with ease. As soon as another man approached, Fang received gray chi again. Fang Zhen couldn't even dream of this, when it would be so easy to get gray chi. He won the deal in less than a minute by getting these 3 bundles of gray chi. Suddenly, the elderly lady began to call the officers to her. The grandmother pointed to the door and said that yesterday she was walking with this unfortunate girl and saw her enter this door. Earlier, the grandmother encountered these strange people in this corridor. They were all transparent and could even pass through her body, and asked the officers to help, because she was scared. At that moment, the guy did not understand that from the very beginning, what he saw was just a ghost of a girl. What he saw before were the happiest moments of the girl's life before her death. This time, the hero felt so angry and rebellious, and it was unknown what this pure and sweet child experienced in her last moments. A few minutes later, the guy was asked to go with officers to the station to help with the investigation. Going out into the street, the hero discovered that Butcher Zheng was standing in the crowd. The butcher was staring at the apartment building, and he looked like he knew what happened. Events continued to occur at the police station. A girl entered the interrogation room. She was familiar to Fang Zhen, and he obviously did not expect to see her here. It was a policewoman living next to Fang Zhen, a girl named Wei Yuan. The girl didn't see anything like that because they collided at her workplace. The policewoman asked him not to be nervous. They usually carry out examination procedures, and she wanted the hero to decide which piece of meat he bought so that the girl could create a file and send it as evidence. At the exit from the police station, the hero asked what happened to the girl, but the officer could not disclose any information while the investigation was ongoing, and hoped that the guy would not complicate her life. Suddenly, the girl turned to the hero. She wanted to ask if he liked reading supernatural stories. Fan admitted that he actually reads them sometimes. An officer is investigating a number of missing persons cases, and all these missing people have one thing in common. After looking at their phone history, they all have a record of reading supernatural novels before they disappeared. The lady asked the hero to make a list of such novels for her. Maybe she could get a clue from them. Fang Zhen agreed, because it was his civic duty to cooperate with the police. Some time later, events continued at the Jufa farmers market. A kid came to the butcher and wanted to buy meat. The muscular man kindly sold the boy the meat he asked for. The boy buying meat from the butcher was quite impudent for his age. Passing by the hero, the kid called him a break. Fang Zhen was amazed that some dirty little brat was mocking him. He could put up with it, but not everyone in his place would do this. Watching the guy, the hero realized that brats like him know nothing but witty remarks. After this situation, Fan finally approached the butcher. The butcher immediately recognized him because Old Man Wang had talked about the guy. If he wanted to kill ghosts and train the spirit, then this head-cutting blade would be the best fit. As soon as the hero took it out of its sheath, his cultivated body felt a momentary drop in the ambient temperature. This is truly a head-cutting blade. It has defeated 37 of the most vile men in Kaishiku. However, it has been around for a long time and has been badly damaged. Only half of the blade remains, so now it can only be considered a defective antique. An enterprising butcher decided to give the heroes a discount and sell it for exactly 60,000 yuan. The coincidence was surprising because Fang Zhen had exactly 60,000 yuan in his bank account. Evening came, and events continued to occur in the main character's house. Using the blade, he continued to meditate in order to cultivate his abilities and improve his skills. After a long time of meditation, the hero finally improved the blade that takes off the head. Suddenly, the blade began to burn the hero's hand. Having dropped it, the guy did not understand why there was suddenly an explosion of ghostly chi. A huge ghost suddenly began to emerge from the blade. The ghost that appeared in front of the main character was headless. The sight shocked the hero. He was dumbfounded and did not understand what to do in this case. The headless ghost was chained to a blade that takes off heads. But in fact it was not a ghost, because the blade, which means cutting off heads, took the lives of many people. The blade showed the resentment of those departed souls. A total of 9 offended spirits appeared here. They all surrounded the hero, but then suddenly exploded instantly. The souls of those who had lost their lives began to flow into the blade. The phantom flame burned for exactly 9 seconds, but according to the butcher, this deadly blade took the lives of 37 people. It looks like this blade has indeed suffered serious damage and has been greatly affected by the enhancement process. But in any case, the hero was finally able to get his hands on a convenient weapon. However, if he does not get the book about the blade, then it will be a waste of this precious treasure. But this is easier said than done, since plans are constantly changing. This sudden development completely ruined his plan because he was faced with difficulties. When he cultivates, no matter what techniques he uses, the sphere never increases. After thinking about it, he finally came to a conclusion. His body lacks chi and blood. The finite blood in his body is not enough to support what he needs for cultivation, so he needs to rely on outside help to make up for the deficiency. He ran into the pharmacy. The guy turned to the pharmacist to find out if there was any medicine to replenish blood and chi. Suddenly, the order came and he discovered that little Shui was sitting. She was the daughter of the drugstore boss for 4 seasons. Coming closer, the guy again asked if she had any medicines that nourish or replenish the blood. After adjusting her glasses, the girl asked if the hero really needed the drug that saturates the blood. Realizing what he had asked, he realized that something was clearly wrong here. The battle between the girl and the boy began. The girl offered a choice of donkey skin, gelatin, donkey gelatin blood, Madam's Happy Blood Restoration Tonic and Blood Restoration Tonic, Beautiful Lady's Hemoglobin and Motherwort. Hearing this, the hero realized that these were all aphrodisiacs. Manly man, running to the pharmacy in the middle of the night to buy donkey skin gelatin, donkey blood gelatin adding granules, or motherwort, and then asking a schoolgirl which one works better is just a shameful blow to the heart. The last blow was delivered by the girl, and she won. Feng Zhen at that moment thought that he had really done something wrong because he was overcome with shame. The girl handed the hero a pale boyfriend. It nourishes and replenishes the blood, and regulates the menstrual cycle. Seeing this, the hero was indignant, because he is a man, and he has no need for it. Shui continued to watch the stupid guy and mocked him. Adjusting her glasses again, the girl said that then he could try what is known as a friend of women, namely motherwort. Indignant again, the hero began to shout that he was not a woman, he had nothing from this, and this medicine was completely useless for him. And then, the girl suggested that he try gelatin because of the donkey skin. She laughed and guaranteed it would satisfy him. The guy asked not to look at him like that. No one said that he was using it for himself, maybe he was buying it for his girlfriend. Shui continued to laugh because he had previously bought Lu Wei Dihuang pills, which have a similar effect. The hero remembered that he had previously gone to this pharmacy because he had night sweats and dreams due to kidney deficiency, and wanted to get a cure for it. When she came to the pharmacy last time, the girl handed him Lu Wei Dihuang pills. Having proudly thrown money for the medicine, the hero thought that that girl had sold him these medicines the last time. When leaving, the guy could barely restrain himself, because this girl infuriated him incredibly. That's why he's always so reluctant to get involved with the pharmacy boss's daughter. But this will only last as long as the medicine can be upgraded into an effective supplement to aid cultivation. Of all the blood-nourishing medicines, these donkey gelatin blood replenishing granules seem to be the only ones suitable for men. After looking on the internet, the guy discovered that the first person to try it was Prince Chaoji. But men drink donkey gelatin. He still couldn't believe it, but he doesn't care. They can mock him as much as they want. For the sake of the great bowl itself of improvement and breakthrough, he will risk everything. Feng Zhen continued to improve his abilities in order to become stronger. There will always be painful trials before the greatest reward, he thought. And to recharge himself with energy and health, he drank this bowl of donkey gelatin. His entire body explodes with chi and blood, and he felt an incredible surge of vivacity energy. The limit was broken, he became much stronger. The hero uses the remaining 2 runes to tone up and help his cultivation. The Golden Immune Arhat successfully completed the blood restoration cycle 9 times. Exorcist Golden Seal Warrior also successfully completed the recovery cycle 6 times. And finally, the golden immune mana shield successfully passed the final stages and reached the 10th level. Any skill acquired should be what is called a miraculous achievement. Feng Zhen wanted to know what rank his current strength fell under. Although he had already had 3 supernatural encounters, except for the last time, when he did not use combat power to take care of the infernal machine or the ghost woman's food, he simply went with the flow. But the worst thing was that he spent all his money on the blade. In any case, the most important thing now is to figure out how to collect more than before to replenish your savings. This Bureau of Supernatural Investigations is probably the best choice to make some extra money. The guy called his and Sun Yushu's friends to ask him something. He wanted to get Sun Yushu some information about the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. In particular, he wanted to find out where their stronghold or headquarters was located in Zhou City. But I did not expect that their discipline would be as strict as the military, regarding their organization or any insider information. Suddenly, an old acquaintance of Song remembered one small detail. This is only something he heard in passing, so he doesn't know whether it will be useful. The hero was already intrigued and wanted to hear any information. Song vaguely heard their conversation yesterday, and did not say anything about plans to forcibly clear the Tongjiang Bridge. Fan immediately began to think about what to do next. The first thought arose, and he realized that he needed to see if there was any news on the internet. Authorities have shut off the upper stream and are clearing it of sediment. So they were really going to block the stream, and the special agents were going all out to defeat the evil. The cold-looking man in the dark glasses and his organization seemed obsessed with thoroughly analyzing the Tongjiang Bridge situation. But it was completely unclear what the hell was happening on this bridge, why they needed to spend so much effort on forcibly clearing the bridge. It seemed as if they were going to destroy the bridge, or perhaps they were going to directly attack whatever was on the bridge. Suddenly, the guy's phone rang. These were neighbors. They asked if the hero was free, and if he could pick them up. They were too scared to go home right now. The girls literally begged him, because they were scared half to death and were too afraid to go outside. Fan immediately realized that these were the voices of 2 students from a neighboring apartment. He didn't understand what could have scared them so much. It could have been anything. It wasn't a blatant request, so he was just going to go get them and ask them to send their location. The location was right next to the Tongjiang Bridge. Some time later, the hero approached the location of the girls, and thought that the chain of events that happened on the bridge still causes panic in the hearts of people. No one wants to return there, even electronic taxis refuse to go there at night. The hero had to come a long way here and arrive by bus. Someone behind suddenly asked the guy if he knew how to get to Graves Hill. Turning around, he wanted to look at the person who asked this. It was an elderly man who again asked if the hero knew how to get to Graves Hill. The elderly man kept repeating his question, and ghost energy began to emerge from his mouth. Apart from asking how to get to the place he was interested in, the elderly man said nothing more. He just remained silent, and then asked the question again. Suddenly, someone else began to approach the hero and said that he was a ghost asking for directions. The guy asked the hero if he knew what it meant if he encountered such a ghost. Feng Zhen looked at the guy warily and did not answer. The ghost scene can steal the chi energy, the stranger answered. The main character immediately realized who this man really was. And he immediately began to run away from him, because this was fraught with loss of chi energy. Fan approached the mysterious guy, and the guy told him to relax. Every person has 3 fires. Until he answers his question or extinguishes his own flame, these ghosts can't do anything. Suddenly, Feng Zhen began screaming in horror for the master to save him. The stranger replied that this was his fateful meeting, so he would do everything possible to help the hero. The mysterious guy said that he wasn't quite sure he could handle the ghost. He needed to go back to his shop and get his magic weapon before he could fight this ghost. Together they began to run to the store to pick up the magic weapon. While they were running, the hero asked a question about if someone accidentally became possessed by a ghost, how could they be exorcised? The guy replied that you can know with the help of the underworld government. Not understanding what was said, the hero thought about why at that moment he mentioned it. Suddenly, Feng Zhen turns to the mysterious guy, and tells him that if someone is hiding his hand, then most of all he needs to beware of his true abilities. Using his magical abilities, the hero uses the attack of the Golden Warrior and drives out the devil. With a powerful explosion, he defeats the arrogant demon who was going to harm the hero with one attack. The hero's bravery was not lacking, and he was easily able to defeat the mysterious demon. Behind the guy there was still dark energy that was trying to surround him. He felt that the same old ghost was standing behind him, asking for directions. The ghost used a ghostly chi blast attack, but the hero used a golden immune shield and was able to defend himself. At this moment, Fang Zhen realized that the ghost had actually broken through 6 of the 10 layers of the golden immune shield. But since the ghost could not attack him, that means that the ghost will pay for this, and now he will have to lose his miserable life. Without expecting the attack, the elder receives a powerful blow to his body with a fiery blade. Having lost his hand, the elder still tries to defend himself, but realizes that it is useless. With the help of his magical abilities, the hero again summons the seal. This time, he used the Golden Warrior exorcising seal and exorcised the devil from that ghost again. After applying the seal, a gigantic explosion occurred, which enveloped everything that surrounded the hero in flames. Immediately after the attack, the elder grabbed the hero by the neck and held him. The old man told Fang Zhen that he was still too inexperienced to fight with him. But this only made the main character smile, because he did not use even half of his strength. And the arrogant demon began to self-destruct due to his naivety. Even though his body was protected by mystical solar fire, he still lost. Suddenly, the hero returns to normal and finds himself in reality. He felt himself being drawn into a vision of a ghost. No one falls for the same trick twice, since the last time he was sucked into a ghostly vision, he resists. And he already realized that he was again possessed by a ghost when he discovered that the distance between the road and the bus stop had decreased. The ghost that the hero defeated was not easy. Each half of the ghosts can actually produce a separate evil spirit. This ghost has broken through 6 of the 10 layers of the golden immune shield. This ghost's resentment is too strong. He is many times more evil than any other evil spirit. Fortunately, Fang Zhen was not hot-tempered and would not recklessly fight 2 ghosts together. It would be no different from voluntarily taking his own life. In the future, the hero needs to be 1,000 times more careful. If he encounters another ghost with 2 halves, he cannot make mistakes if he wants to survive in a world that is constantly becoming more and more abnormal. Fang Zhen feels like he just got another great deal. It was worth risking his life right now, and he got 2 gray chi after the fight. The guy shouldn't worry too much because he needs to calm down. He can't expose himself right now. Besides, he shouldn't stay here for too long. 2 beautiful ladies are still looking for him. Meanwhile, events continued to take place at the Tongjiang Waterfront Carnival. There was a crowd of people, and the police wanted to settle the conflict and disperse the crowd. When the guy entered this crowd, he was thinking about why there were so many police cars and ambulances here. Suddenly, one of his neighbors runs up to him, shouts that they have been waiting for him for ages and begins to hug him. In a trembling voice, the girls began to explain what happened here. As it turned out, they were free that weekend, so they came to the carnival. But when they entered the haunted house, 3 people were in the haunted house like ordinary people, but they were there as props. Seeing this, the girls thought that the props they are using now are so realistic. The girls began to calm each other down, thinking at that moment that it was just a prop. Some guy started standing up for the girls and saying that they could hide in his arms because he was good and powerful. Watching the ghosts in the haunted room, he thought they were pretty damn realistic, but he still wasn't scared. One of the ghosts started screaming to save him. The bald man fell to the ground, and thought that this was a real ghost, not a fake. All visitors immediately began to run out of the attraction because they were incredibly afraid. Fang Zhen, while at the amusement park, felt that he had a strong sense of ghostly chi, and he was afraid that it was not just like that. Suddenly, he notices people heading towards the room where the ghosts were discovered. Chi begins to fly from a woman walking in a crowd of people. A piece of grey chi successfully lands directly on the hero, and it seems that this is truly a supernatural incident. The auras of the man with the scar on his face and the woman with short hair are the most ordinary. They look like the man with the dark glasses from that time. These 4 must be special forces from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. The girl with short hair suddenly looked at the hero and paid attention to him. At that moment, the hero was just having a nice conversation with the girls. The ladies thanked him for taking care of them and came to save them. Fang Zhen shuddered when this short-haired woman looked at him. She is definitely stronger than the heroes, and this man with a scar is probably also strong. And it was unknown where the hell these commandos came from. Some time later, the events continued to happen on a public bus. The hero thought about whether they were really working overtime all night to finish the job. They move forward and it seems that they are almost done with the destruction of the bridge. The violent cleansing plan that Sun Yushu talked about on the phone will probably be completed in a couple of days. It seems that the relevant departments want to thoroughly investigate the Tongjiang Bridge case and resolve any issues. Events continued to occur the next day. All 3 volumes that he received last time were Buddhist, and he hoped that fate would not curse him and he would receive the long-awaited books. He has not yet had enough of this sinful world, beautiful women, delicious food, games and movies. He will never give them up to become a monk. This time he deliberately bought other types of books on the internet, and he will give these treasures his love. An hour later, he realized that even the holy scripture about human skin cursed him. All improvements had failed. Unfortunately, there was no response from human skin writing when he tried to improve these 6 books. Perhaps it was because these Taoist and Buddhist volumes could not be combined with cultivation skills, or maybe it was because they were at different levels, or maybe he needed to gather more gray qi before he could refine them. From that moment on, he realized that being rich is always better than being poor. Even if all of these volumes were fake, those related to the Jinyan series Tendon and Bone Marrow Transformation Manuscript and 9 Yang Divine Power were carefully chosen by the hero. The first is a cultivation method known as one of the 3 divine techniques, the second teaches the continuous flow of extraordinary Yang True Qi and cures all cold poisons and Yin attribute poisons. It is the ideal defense against the supernatural. After these 2 volumes, the hero reached the last rune. 4 volumes right in front of his eyes, these 4 cultivation techniques look like they are spreading their legs, waiting for him to fill them with his love. But if Feng Zhen doesn't learn the blade volume, then upgrading the head-cutting blade would be a waste of time, as useless as buying a pair of white shoes and then spending even more money on a pair of white trousers to wear. If he wants to improve his skills, then he needs to find more gray qi. The best plan would be to study the blade volume first to improve his combat power. Thus, the hero began to study the manuscripts. He learned the divine power of 9 yen, and also improved the skill of the wooden blade. The Tendon and Bone Marrow Transplant Manuscript was divided into 9 levels, the divine power of 9 yang was divided into 12 levels, and the wooden blade mastery was divided into 3 parts. No one knew how long it would take to get the full version of the volumes. The more the hero thought about it, the more his soul hurt, and there was a feeling that right now he would get even worse. When Feng Zhen looked on the internet, he deliberately selected volumes from different sects. After all, the 3 volumes he finally decided on were more or less of the Buddhist lineage. Some time later, events continued to occur on the Tongjiang Bridge. There was an incredibly loud explosion right next to the bridge. Many soldiers began to make their way to the bridge. The units were going to block all the roads that led to the Tongjiang Bridge, and all vehicles were strictly prohibited from entering. Surveillance of the surrounding area was completed, and all units were preparing to clean up. The soldiers were digging right next to the bridge because they were looking for something. Many bulldozers were located near the bridge and they were excavating. The excavation was led by a leader specially overseeing the operation in the lower reaches of the river, Captain Shen. They found people here before 10 p.m., and it was worth hurrying before sunset. Earlier, when other soldiers were digging the river bank, they discovered several stone architectural houses. The leader immediately realized that under this river there could be more houses built by the ancients, one at each end of the river. These stone houses could be left by the people who lived here before. One of the soldiers suggested that these were not just houses that were underground, but something larger and more terrifying. An ancient superstition says that those whose houses were buried are not able to absorb their last breath before death, so they are the most touchy and can easily become evil spirits. They chose a flowing river or stream and buried houses at each end to borrow the power of endless flowing water. This meant never-ending life and was intended to break the grudges and suppress the owners of the houses. The generals or nobles who were in these houses during the change of dynasty were sentenced and imprisoned in these houses. People who were in the houses will lead to even more powerful spirits. Areas with rivers and streams were considered valuable places with good feng shui. That's why houses were buried there very early. The ancients considered it taboo to build bridges over these bodies of water. They were afraid to connect the grievances of the people who lived here before. But from what the soldiers saw here, they were able to make it so that the monk even carried out such a huge project as the construction of tombs. This indicates that houses are buried here. And the bridge connected 2 parts of different houses, which is why the bridge collapsed, and this series of misfortunes occurred. Suddenly, one of the workers reported that they had dug a limestone path under the river, which led directly to the stone buildings. Instantly they began to go to the find to examine it and understand what it was hiding behind it. The captain was also informed that Captain Jan's team found the same thing as them. They also found a stone path, but another captain found it 10 minutes earlier, and they already went down to the bottom of the river. The leader wanted to know if the other team had found the remains of the houses that were buried here. With his crew, the fearless captain headed along the found road. Many soldiers were going to search the entire area. While most of these stone buildings had foundations that were completely destroyed, these two stone houses appear to have largely survived. The shape of the house was a little strange. There were no windows, only one door made of bronze. The captain ordered the soldiers to clear out the other stone houses to see if they could find anything, while he himself planned to continue his search in the strange building. The experienced soldier was amazed that the door was made of bronze. The ancients often used bronze as a container for rituals. They also carved their life stories on bronze. Then this bronze door should also have such inscriptions. So, having looked at it, the captain saw that this was indeed the case, and there were many inscriptions on it. However, the image is very damaged and he can only see fragments of the story that was painted here. The soldier saw strange drawings where two men were performing a ritual and were armed with hammers with which they were hitting something. It was unknown who this man was, and what powerful authority he had insulted, in order to actually undergo two types of cruel punishment, suffering from these torments. One can only imagine what kind of indignation he must have felt before his death. Immediately the captain asked his soldiers to give him a walkie-talkie, because he was going to report something. And he ordered all the soldiers present here to get ready to open the door. He radioed to Captain Yang that he had found something interesting in this stone house. As it turned out, another team of soldiers also discovered the same find. Having carefully examined the direction in which these houses stand, it was discovered that they face not north-south, but east-west. The common people have a saying that when the doors face south, the descendants will prosper, when the doors face east, the tears will be endless. This saying meant that when the doors face west, sunlight cannot enter the house, and the inside will be cold and gloomy every day. There were rumors that newborns could see things that people usually couldn't see, and they often burst into tears because they were scared of these scary things. These houses built at the bottom of the river cannot be for the people who built the tomb, they must be there for another purpose. Another captain radioed that they had made an important discovery. Suddenly, there was only silence in response, and no one else spoke on the radio. All that could be heard was rattling and no one said a word. The captain immediately asked his soldiers to be quiet. A knock was heard from the tomb. Someone was knocking from inside. Suddenly, someone spoke on the radio. He was screaming. It was one of the soldiers who shouted for them to run. The alarmed, experienced captain stood rooted to the spot and listened to what they would tell him on the radio. The experienced soldier gave the order if old Yang could not cope despite his abilities, then they will all immediately leave and return to shore. It turned out that Li He's team had not come out yet. After they entered the house, there was no movement. It seemed like the others had disappeared as soon as they left, and they hadn't heard from them at all. The captain ordered most of the squad to retreat, but ordered the other two soldiers to go inside with him. As soon as they entered, the fog began to dissipate throughout the tomb. This was strange, because there should be no fog at the bottom of the river. But the captain did not see the fog that surrounded all the soldiers. Knocking was heard from the darkness, and a gloomy figure appeared in front of one of the soldiers. This sound was unbearable. Knocking came from all directions, and it was impossible to understand where they were coming from. Meanwhile, events continued to occur in Zhou City, namely at the Shan Wei Yuan buffet. Some pot-bellied man at the third table ate a huge number of different dishes. The intern from the buffet had already run away in fear because of this. When they deliver him a new plate of steak, it will disappear within a minute. The new intern, Little Zhang, has been frying lentil steak all day. He is so tired that he can't even raise his arms anymore. Suddenly, the hero's phone rang. He was the glutton who ate a huge amount of different foods. Called Hero Song, who had just heard that the soldiers would thoroughly clean the Tongjiang Bridge this evening. And also, he just heard them say that the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations is rushing there with reinforcements. It seems that the first attempt to clear the bridge failed. Everyone who went down under the bridge disappeared. Fang Zhen immediately realized that it seemed that the Tongjiang Bridge had already become a dangerous place, one that even the experts from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau could not handle. That's why Sun believed that the guy couldn't go there, because he was just one person and it would be too dangerous for him. The hero was in a difficult situation, and was thinking whether to go or not. If he goes, it may be too dangerous, but if he doesn't go, he will miss this great opportunity. Danger and reward went hand in hand. But the guy's priority now is to collect a large amount of gray chi to sanctify the runes. He decided that he would just take a walk around the neighborhood and would not go there, since there should be no danger there. After some time, events continued in the vicinity of the Tongjiang Bridge. Some girl was riding a bicycle and was thinking that Brother Wang had ordered individual training from her in the amount of 20,000 yuan, and she needed to come up with a new weight loss program for him. A whistle was heard, and a stream of cold air approached the girl. She immediately started shaking because she felt something was wrong. Lady felt as if someone was blowing on her neck, but there was absolutely no one behind. Sighing with relief, the girl thought that she was just scaring herself. There was a knocking sound in the middle of the dark street, because some little boy was playing with his ball. The girl immediately wondered why the little boy was playing with a ball on the street in the middle of the night. A young lady wondered why a little boy was playing outside alone late at night, and she wanted to know where his mother and family members were. Immediately after her question, the guy began to raise his ball, and he immediately began to run away into the darkness. This was truly some kind of strange child, the girl thought. She thought it best to forget about it, because he must live here somewhere. Turning back while riding a bicycle, she discovered something terrible. The boy continued playing with the ball again as if nothing had happened. Dark energy emanated from him. There was definitely something wrong with him. The alarmed girl at that moment realized that she needed to get out of here as soon as possible. She started riding her bike at great speed. Turning around, she no longer noticed him, as if he was not there. Sighing, the girl thought that it was good that the boy did not follow her. Suddenly, someone addressed the girl, calling her little sister. Exhaling cold air, the little boy invited the girl to play ball together. A loud scream was heard, and the girl's fate is no longer known. During the incident, the street lights began to flicker. This was immediately noticed by the hero, who was driving in the vicinity of the bridge. Stopping his bike, he realized that something was wrong here, because it smelled of wet earth mixed with rotten fish. Walking down the street, the hero discovered someone's bicycle, and there was a woman's purse hanging on it. Hearing the knock, he immediately noticed a little boy who was playing with a ball at night. The guy immediately approached the boy, but did not show any signs of attention. Unexpectedly, the hero discovered a girl whom someone had taken her life right on this street. The hero's leg is hit by a ball that a little boy was playing with. The boy immediately invited Fang Zhen to stay here and play ball with him. With lightning speed, the hero trampled with his foot the ball with which the little boy was playing. And instead, he will play with the stupid boy's mother. With incredible ease, the hero destroys the arrogant demon who ruined the lives of many passers-by. Immediately after this, he invited the boy not to run away, and to play with him. Using the seal of the Golden Warrior to exorcise the devil, the hero attacked the naughty child. He screamed furiously in pain and began to gradually disappear. With an easy victory, the hero also received +1 gray chi as a reward. The demon didn't even cover up the stench of dead fish emanating from his body. Did he really think that the hero wouldn't notice that he was a ghost? This boy may have been one of the victims who fell from the Tongjiang Bridge, but he still shouldn't have harmed an innocent person. This boy was too cruel to the poor girl. The hero did not want to leave the girl here, and for her sake he had to call the police, because he could not leave her just like that. There was a whistling sound, as if someone was running incredibly fast. The hero immediately heard this, and he became wary. He realized that there was someone here, and he needed to run, otherwise he would not be able to wash away any suspicion from himself, even if he jumped into the Yellow River. The one who ran to Fang Zhen had incredible speed and stopped not far from the hero. This super fast guy got here too fast. In the current situation, even if he had an alibi, the hero would still not be able to explain what happened here. Uncomfortably, they continued to watch each other, and it was the most terrifying silence. A moment later, a car pulled up and was rushing after the guy. The man got out of the car and shouted to Lu Tian that he did not know how to obey orders, and he needed to know what teamwork was. The man who arrived was the captain of this team. Together they watched Fang Zhen, who stood next to the lifeless girl. A terrible silence reigned again. No one knew what to say. There was a girl lying at the hero's feet, and he was also the only person in this alley, and could not explain his presence in this situation. The guy didn't understand what to do, run away and admit that he is a criminal and become the most wanted in the whole country, but this would be extremely unfair. The unknown team determined that the compass shows that the location of the ghost chi it was previously fixed on should be ahead. This is the first level heavenly dog ghost chi. The girl lying on the ground had a weak response from ghost chi. The team was one step late, she was taken away by the ghost before they even arrived here. From that moment on, Fang Zhen realized that he was saved, and he was grateful to the girl who proved that he was innocent. One of the team members wondered if the hero had been recruited, or if he was a newbie who had also awakened his body and bloodline on a blue moon night of bloodshed. Unknown thought he was awesome because he was actually able to destroy the level 1 heavenly dog ghost by himself. The team believed that the hero had been recruited. The government was trying to stop these super people from going wild, so they rounded them all up and put them under military command to control them. Meanwhile, observing the hero, the team believed that his mysterious and stoic expression was reminiscent of a proud and lonely swordsman from ancient times. The team member guessed that all the specialists were lone wolves. Concerned, Fang Zhen thought about what to answer them. What would happen if he told them that he was not one of their members? Would they really attack him and then hand him over to the military? The team began to get ready for the journey, and got ready to go further. Suddenly, one of the participants told the hero that if his team did not make it on time, then he could go to the bridge with them. At this moment, the hero had a strange feeling that if he refused them, something bad would happen. After thinking about it, he realized that it would probably be better if he went with them and saw what was happening. It was always safer in a group than alone. However, he definitely cannot allow his secret to be revealed to them. Seeing many people in the camp, the hero was surprised whether they were all awakened superhumans. Given this, the hero clearly understood that something significant had happened at the Tongjiang Bridge, judging by all those glowing workers. There were many more of them than Fang Zhen thought. He could easily be exposed here, and he needed to find a chance to escape. Suddenly, particles of gray chi began to approach the hero. Just like that, they went straight into the guy's storage room, thereby making him happy. He became stronger. It was another handout from fate. A stormy stream of thoughts raged inside him, but it was not reflected outwardly, and he tried to calm himself down. Now it's like he's in the forest with a pack of wolves, and he definitely can't attract their attention. Suddenly, another unknown man appeared in front of the hero. It was clear from him that he was a master. His height was more than 2 meters and he looked the strongest. Fortunately, the master did not detect the hero and did not notice anything unusual. Laughing, the hero asked the scripture to be more inconspicuous, and not act so impudently and not rob them right under their noses. The girl from the team felt that this man's gaze was terrifying. She felt all the blood in her body froze from the icy gaze. His aura was very similar to their instructors. He was probably around the same level as him and should be at least a 4th or 5th level deity. And the super speed guy was happy that he didn't go rob a bank or commit some other crime after he woke up. What he heard surprised the hero, because he thought about who the deities of the 4th or 5th level were. The deity must be at the level they received after awakening. This level system is completely different from the one used for ghosts. Suddenly, someone announced that all newcomers must report to the instructor's meeting place. They must report and also do a roll call. The hero thought that because of this he would definitely expose himself. The team members wanted to know if the guy had found his instructor, because they had found theirs, and it looked like they had to separate for a while. Suddenly, one of the military announced that if anyone could defeat a level 1 heavenly dog, they should be able to defeat a level 1 heavenly dog ghost on their own. The man needed a man to go down to the riverbed and participate in the rescue operation. Those who are ready to take up the challenge can enroll with him and they will immediately receive 100,000 yuan and 12 hours of training in the blessed land. The military man also warned them not to contact him. If anyone tried to take advantage of the crisis during this time, he would be immediately both expelled as soon as it was discovered and permanently expelled from the training camps. Those who meet the conditions must quickly come to an urgent meeting, and go down to the river bed in exactly 3 minutes. One of the team members wanted to participate only to spend 12 hours on the blessed earth. The hero immediately realized that it seemed that this blessed land was a real temptation for those who had awakened. As it turns out, training for 1 hour on blessed land is the same as training for 3 days anywhere else. Now everyone has to start from the same point and only train for a couple of days, but if they get this chance, they will have a big advantage over others, they will not be able to gain more resources and take a place in the inner circle. The team member insisted that Fang Zheng hurry up and sign up, but the hero realized that he was a husky hiding in a pack of wolves, and it was unknown what would happen if he was exposed. One of the men immediately agreed. He was awakened as a second-level deity. The power of a second-level deity was more than enough to defeat a first-level heavenly dog. And also, another genius appeared. It was Zhao Buiyuan. He also awakened as a second-level deity. Even a girl named Lu Qin came out. Not only did she get a second-grade awakening when she got her powers, but she also encountered a supernatural incident when she woke up and managed to destroy the ghost on her own. No matter what field they were in, she would always be talented and gifted. According to the instructors, they could only reach a second-level deity after training for a month. As expected, such suffocating pressure will undoubtedly cause a person to lose all hope. The man recruiting the team could not believe that there was no one else willing. Suddenly, he heard someone in the crowd saying that it was obvious that the guy was able to defeat the level 1 demon dog ghost by himself, but it was unclear why he was not coming. The team member in Fang Zheng shouted so loudly. The guy in red wanted the hero not to miss this opportunity and went there. A group of people began to look at the hero, because they thought that there was another expert hidden within them. From that moment on, the hero realized that he could no longer hide. Raising his hand, he said that they could count on him. The instructor immediately asked how many ghost kills Fang Zhen had. Recalling all the events, it seemed to the hero that he had killed a lot, but did not want to stand out, and said that he had killed only one. Justifying himself, he claimed that it was just a small ghost that did not even reach his thigh. But they didn't have time. The situation on the Tongjiang bridge was too tense. Everyone was gathered into a team and were going to go to the bridge. This mission should be dangerous and exciting. But who would have thought that they would be left here to help the wounded? They would be rewarded with 100,000 yuan and the opportunity to practice for 12 hours on blessed ground for such a simple task. Once the people found out about this, they would be green with envy. The hero also thought that why were they all happy to be here as orderlies for these people? It seemed like a mockery of geniuses like them. The closer they came to the bottom of the river, the thicker the fog became. Normal people's approach doesn't compare to theirs, they just cultivate 10 or so years longer than them. A couple of days after the blue moon of bloodshed descended, the spiritual energy on the earth began to gradually revive, and it became thicker every day. According to the instructors, the average awakened can reach his level if he trains for 7 or 8 months. And for prodigies like them, they could get to their level within 2 or 3 months. What he heard amazed the hero, because he learned that spiritual energy was being reborn. Everything that is happening to you, supernatural incidents and those who have awakened, it is all due to the revival of this spiritual energy. It seems that those who are awakened rely on spiritual energy. They use a completely different method than the hero, and he is not one of the awakened ones, and he does not have any so-called powers from a special bloodline. One of the team members asked what Lu Qin's goals were for the future. The girl wanted to become a level 9 deity before the blue moon of bloodshed descends for the second time. When this happens, she also wants to unlock the secrets of the quark and break through the ranks to become a Knight Rider. If she couldn't become a level 9 deity before the second blue bloodshed moon descended, she could only wait for the third blue bloodshed moon to arrive before she could become a Knight Rider. Alarmed, the hero realized that the blue moon of bloodshed would indeed descend a second and even a third time. As if it would not stop there, it seemed that the blue moon had begun to revive spiritual energy approximately 10 years ago. And they didn't even begin to act openly until the actual arrival of the blue moon of bloodshed a couple of days ago. It is not surprising that the hero suddenly encountered so many experts and masters. At first he even had a misunderstanding. After all, his previous judgment was that those who awakened with powers were omnipotent from the very beginning. An incredibly loud explosion occurred not far from the team. All team members immediately noticed this and were alarmed by what they heard. They wanted to understand what was happening and what the hell happened, as well as where this explosion came from. The earth began to tremble, and it was unknown why these tremors arose. The explosion affected what had just happened. The dam upstream was blown to pieces by the explosion. One of the team members began to quickly run away because he did not want to lose his life here. The tremors did not stop, probably from the water that flowed in the river. Other members of the team also thought that perhaps they should leave. Unexpectedly, the hero discovered something interesting. At the bottom of the river something sparkled very brightly. It was the grey qi that Fang Zheng had successfully collected. But that was not all, and he began to collect a lot of grey qi. Fan broke his record for collecting 4 runes at once. Silhouettes of people came into the team's field of vision, and it seemed that something was approaching them. These were people who went down to the river bed and they finally got up. The instructor shouted for the newcomers to run if they want to live. The dam was destroyed by the crazy king of the undead, and all the water was pouring in here. The water really crystallizes to the place where the events took place. While they weren't running away, the hero finally figured out the situation. The undead king that lay at the bottom of the river already had an aura and was gradually cultivating to become a drought demon, and people originally wanted to open the coffin in an attempt to destroy it. However, this action only gave the undead king the opportunity to escape from the river. A group of experts pursued the king, hot on their heels. The 2 halves of the undead king entered the base of the dam and suddenly went crazy when they saw that they were about to be finished off by the descending demons. The lower half of the undead king ran towards the dam recklessly, leaving behind his pursuers. The undead king was so cruel that he left the lower half of his body. The upper half of the body used this chance to escape from the dam area, thereby saving the most powerful half of the undead king. People watching what was happening were afraid that people who went down to the river bed could lose their lives. A few seconds later, they found people running from the river. These were the same people who went to explore the tomb, and they were saved. The water was constantly approaching the people, and they tried to escape as quickly as possible. Fortunately, they were lucky that they got out of there alive. The river bed was very scary. These members of the supernatural investigations were actually able to escape from the 2 maddened halves of the spirit word. Fang Zheng knew that the group was full of experts. Nothing good will come of being exposed here. This husky will take the chance to run away while no one is paying attention. With lightning speed, the hero began to slip away from the scene. It was a jackpot for him. He wanted to go home and see how many runes he actually had. Entering his home, the guy heard someone say that January brings cold, February is warm, and March is a mixture of both, and the girl's throat hurt at any time. Lying on the bed, she caught a cold while sleeping last night and now her throat is sore and her whole body feels weak. She asked her friend to pour her a cup of water so that she can quickly recover from her cold. In fact, Lin Jiabao was hiding under the blanket, watching the liquor on her laptop, and she secretly ate chips and half a box of tiramisu. Fang Zheng knew that these 2 night owls are always active at night and causing noise instead of sleeping. It seems that their hearts have already brushed away the shadows of what happened last time. Now they are acting like happy and energetic young people again. Suddenly, the guy heard someone start to rise in the elevator. The hero immediately turned around to see who had come. It was the same neighbor, Officer Wei. And again I had to work so late at night, and it must be very difficult to be a police officer. The girl also did not forget to thank him for leaving a list of stories from last time. Smiling, the guy said that it was his civic duty to cooperate with the police. And also, the hero said that he noticed that the girl returns home late. Even if she is busy with business, you still need to pay attention to her health. Officer Wei said she would do so and thanked the hero. Some time later, events continued to occur in Fang Zheng's room. Having counted all the runes, he discovered that there were already 10 of them in total. From that moment on, he knew that he was rich. He finally understood what it meant to become rich overnight. Tonight was definitely not a lost, and it was worth the risk to go to Tongjiang Bridge. He also remembered that there were only 30 people in the last tent, but for some reason he only received 5 runes. Maybe because the grey qi associated with grievances, darkness and other similar qi have a certain time limit, and they are not divided throughout life after connecting with someone. Regardless, the hero must figure out what he is going to improve. Firstly, the blood replenishment medicine definitely needs upgrading. He was then going to use blood replenishment drugs to fully cultivate the last 2 levels of the tendon and bone marrow transformation manuscript. The tendon and bone marrow transformation manuscript strengthened the body, and the divine power of 9 yang uses yang qi to suppress cold and poisonous attacks. These are the ideal skills to deal with these dirty ghosts, and he urgently needs all of them. Once this is all done, his 3 energies will gain their abilities, and the 4th step will be to confirm whether he can continue upgrading the tome that has already been upgraded. Realizing this, he knew that if he continued in the same spirit, then 10 runes would not be enough for him, and he would still live below the poverty line and drag society down. A few minutes later, he still prepared a medicine that was improved by the rune, and must swallow this bowl of gelatin because of the mule's skin to improve his body and prevent coughing. Immediately after consuming the medicine, the hero instantly improved Mok's golden immune shield to level 12. Mok's golden immune shield, when fully upgraded, takes on two forms, namely Bell and Membrane. The Bell is a full form that has absolute defense and has no blind spots, however this form uses a lot of energy and needs enough chi and blood to maintain it. The shape of the Membrane only has 17% of the power of the Bell. In addition, the eyes, ears, mouth and nasal openings are weak points that can be used to break the membrane, but the energy consumption is low and can be maintained for a long time. After learning the new technique, the hero realized that he should continue to try the divine power of the nine yangs. Nine yang divine power is one that utilizes the inner power of yang. For this reason, this technique can only be practiced during the day, when true yang qi can be obtained. Due to failure, this nine yana divine power is undoubtedly an unattainable barrier. All his attempts have always ended in failure. And he thinks he can move on to the next step of the plan and see if he can further upgrade the volume he's already improved. A moment later, a bold idea came to his mind, because I was wondering if he could copy the real volume manually and then update the copied volume twice. Soon after, he finished copying Mok's golden immune shield. Now he just needs to update that copy and hope it works. The copy began to burn and the enhancement was successfully completed. The hero had no idea that the improvement would actually be successful. It soon turned out that the original 12 layers had now become 24 layers. If we continue this idea, then after the third enhancement there will be 36 layers, and after the fourth 48 layers, the volume can reach 100 layers very quickly, or even a couple hundred layers. The hero devoted the next 4 days entirely to cultivation. After learning many skills, he suddenly received a call from Song Yushu because he heard that the water broke out of the dam and gushed out a couple of days ago because there was a demon in the riverbed, and he also heard that the dam exploded because the undead king managed to escape. The world has suffered from such supernatural changes, and yet society remains the same as always. It is unknown how long they are going to hide it from the world. In the end they cannot cover the fire with paper. But this was all because there is a special bureau that deals with these issues. Coming out onto the balcony, the hero remembered that he had not looked at forums for a long time and had not received any news from the outside world. Unexpectedly, he saw news that concerned the revival of the mummy. Clicking on it, he only saw error number 404. Seeing this, the guy realized that the legendary 404 error had appeared again. Looking through the following news, the hero saw that the ruins of the temples of Greece were suddenly sealed and all tourist activities were banned. The situation had really escalated, he thought. He also saw that each respective country had sent official documents to their travel agencies to evacuate their citizens and cease all tourism activities. This news was even accompanied by a photograph. These evacuated personnel were from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. The evacuation of the supernaturals took place in the ruins of a Greek temple, and they did not stop all tourist activity there, which was suspicious. The hero wanted to find out what could have happened there. Being a normal civilian and only getting these tidbits of information is such a pain, and he has no source of information to tell everything to. Anyway, for now, his goal was to become stronger. Only when he had absolute strength would he be able to deal with any problems in the future. Soon, the hero should be delivered a book that he had ordered for a long time, and the guy was incredibly happy. A few seconds later, he received a message that the Tongjiang Bridge had resumed operation, and Fang Zheng did not understand whether this meant that the bridge was completely safe and that it had been thoroughly cleaned. Immediately, he decided to go and have a look, because perhaps he could even get some grey qi. A moment later, the guy was already driving a taxi towards the bridge. He couldn't believe that he hadn't seen a single person from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations, and it looked like the bridge was indeed safe again. Moreover, the radio silence associated with the Tujiang Bridge makes one think that these major events and the damned explosion did not happen at all. Perhaps this work is the case that the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations is handling. By the way, supernatural events often occurred even within Zhou City. It is so incredible that an undead king also appeared. If this is true, then there are many inaccessible remote villages in the world outside the city, and it was unknown how they fared. Suddenly, the hero remembered reading a strange post on the internet on the night of the Blue Moon bloodshed. High in the mountains, a bride who died mysteriously was found lying in an unknown coffin. Getting out of the taxi, the hero thought that danger and opportunity are two sides of the coin. If he has a chance, he will go to this remote mountain village. A few moments later, the hero's phone began to ring. It was Dong the rich man, and it was unclear why he was calling the hero. Dong talked about the group that starred in the movie he told him about last time, but the hero was not interested and hung up. Calling again, Dong shouted that he would just send him the coordinates. This reservoir is high in the mountains, so it will be a little far away. Hearing it high in the mountains, the guy immediately became inspired. A couple of days ago, he agreed to go to the set with rich man Dong to support him and strengthen his courage so that he could meet his goddess, the most popular and beloved celebrity in the four-flower girl group. This place was so far away that he would have to travel by bus from early morning until late evening. Rich Dong also noted that the film crew had not yet fully assembled. It would take them a couple of days before they arrived, and the hero should take advantage of this to prepare. Some time later, Fang Zheng arrived at his residential area. Walking down the street, he thought that several days had already passed since he saw Boss Tang. A moment later, he received Grey Qi. This immediately alerted him, because usually in the city you can't just get it. Night fell and it got dark. Events continued in another area. Namely, in a dark office in which there was only one employee. An ordinary girl was simply working at her workplace. The silence made her start to tremble. It scared her that there was no one else in the office. Looking around, she found absolutely nothing. Out of fear, she understood that she urgently needed to stop her wild imagination. I shouldn't have applied for the night shift when she's such a shy cat. But for some reason it always seemed to her that someone was hiding in the corridor and she always felt icy eyes looking at her. Trying to gather her strength, the girl wanted to stop scaring herself. Suddenly, something terrible came into her field of vision, and she heard loud footsteps coming from the corridor. But there was absolutely no one in the corridor. It was empty. The frightened girl shouted, "Who's there?" Looking down the corridor, she thought they were guards patrolling the building. The girl's response was only silence. The corridor was completely empty. The girl looked with anxiety and despair, and did not understand what to do next. She started screaming again and asking who was there. There are only 5 minutes left until the end of her work shift. Calming herself, the girl thought that everything was fine and everything was fine. There were footsteps along the corridor, which the girl heard again. This made her even more horrified. Her anxiety only intensified. At that moment she realized that he was back. The sound was getting closer, but she didn't see anyone. Suddenly, there was deathly silence. The worried girl was trembling with fear, and did not know why the sound disappeared again. She shouted that this joke was not funny at all, and if they continued to scare her like that, she would get angry and call the police. Finally it was 11 o'clock in the evening, and the girl gradually began to get ready. For her it was the most terrible day of her life. Footsteps were heard again from the corridor. They became louder. The girl was in a hurry and began to run along the corridor in order to get home as quickly as possible. But she wanted to understand who the hell had started this terrible prank. While in the corridor, the girl was convinced herself that there was really no one here. Suddenly, she heard footsteps approaching again. And then, silence. Looking around, she saw no one. The girl was getting ready to go home. She needed to pack her things and leave, because she no longer wanted to stay here for a minute. Footsteps behind her were heard again. The lady turned around to see who might be making them. But when she turned around, she saw no one. And then there was a loud scream, and from that moment it was not known what happened to this girl. The next day, events continued to occur at 7 a.m. The hero was sitting at the bus stop and waiting for the bus. Taking the bus, the guy was going to go to the university town and explore the surrounding area. If he could find the location of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, he was guaranteed a huge catch. After reading the news, the guy saw that a Taoist master had been discovered in Zhou Hospital. There should be excellent conditions for collecting Grey Qi, and it's probably better for him to take another bus and go to Zhou City Public Hospital. Some time later, the guy arrived at Zhou City Public Hospital. After getting off the bus, he realized that he was right after all and received 1 Grey Qi. The public hospital is a piece of fertile land where he can now reap bountiful fees. At that moment the hero decided something. To increase his harvest, he needs to open up more fertile areas. A third area of fertile land may be located around the university city. Moreover, this earth may not be an easy farming plot, but a profitable mine. the harvest there may surprise him and even give him 5 or 10 weeks of grey chi. Rejoicing at the hero, he shouted that he would become the king of all farmers. The people who heard this were shocked by what he said and considered him crazy. Having come to his senses, the hero called a taxi to go to the university city. Besides, he remembered something else. The guy was wondering if the man who wrote the post about the monk managed to get into the hospital to investigate, as he promised. A few minutes later, events continued in Zhou City, namely the university city. This place was huge, and the guy wanted to understand where to start searching. He could look at the tea shops first, but every shop at the foot of the mountain in the university town is a tea shop, and he has no idea where to start. Feng Zheng decided to rent a bike and start searching. The search was very painful for him. He searched all day, but still did not see anyone from the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. Suddenly, the courier called the hero and notified him that his package had arrived. Rejoicing, he remembered that the book he had bought had been delivered. The guy thanked the courier, and said that he could leave him at the security post in his area, and Fan would pick him up later. A moment later, the hero suddenly received +1 grey chi. A huge green car drove past him. Seeing this, the hero thought that the grey chi really came from that machine. This car probably belongs to the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. Realizing this, Feng Zheng decided to follow them. The nosy hero watched and followed the car. He needed to keep his distance to avoid detection. Approaching the Electronic Science and Technology University of China, and looking back, he did not see where the car was. There was no car around him that he was following. From that moment the hero realized that he had lost them. They should still be around, he must have lost them because they turned into some alley. This is just the beginning, but anyway, he just needs to remember that it is near the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Determinedly, the guy wanted to get into the university through Lu Dong. His mother was a professor there. If something strange happens in the university city, his mother should have some information about it. Feng Zheng decided to sneak away before he was discovered and go home to study new books. In any case, today was not in vain. The seeds have already been sown and germinating. This fertile land may one day turn into an oil well just waiting to be extracted. A few minutes later, the hero found himself in his own house. Once in his own home, the guy was incredibly glad that the 4 volumes on martial arts that he had bought were finally with him. The first book he studied was called Wind God Limbs. It uses wind and clouds. This is a fast limb technique that greatly increases speed. The next book was the most difficult to obtain, namely the Spiritual Martial Arts manuscript. After looking at the book, he didn't understand what the hell these spiritual martial arts were. In the book there was a drawing of a monkey and hieroglyphs unknown to the hero. Having sent a message to the seller, he wanted to understand whether this book was really related to martial arts or just a mockery. With fury, he waited for the seller to answer him and explain what was the matter. This demon monkey drawing related to the Taoist concept of meditation, the seller explained to him. The seller thought that these online scammers were becoming even more angry. Luckily, he mixed the whole concept of meditation with the products, and wanted to see how he would stare at a picture of a monkey for days on end. Most weak minds would go crazy trying to train from pictures of a monkey. The hero also discovered that if this simplified demon monkey scheme could not be improved, then the skin should not react. It should be the same as he failed with the 5 lightning mantras and other manuals. To test this, the hero decided to improve the book with a monkey demon. There was a response, and the book began to improve. She actually needed 2 runes. He remembered that the last time he used 2 runes was for the origin of all martial arts innate Qigong. Perhaps the demonic monkey pattern is the same class as innate Qigong. But also, the hero wanted to look at the improved scheme. As it turned out, looking at the book, the hero could only clearly see the eyes of the monkey. And after that, they all began to glow with a bright red light. Feeling this powerful pressure, the hero could not believe his eyes. It was no surprise that he had to spend 2 runes to renew this spiritual martial arts manuscript. It affected his entire spirit with just a glance. But he still saw 1 pair of eyes, as if it were an incomplete book. Soon, the hero realized that this was a fraud and a fake. The worst thing when renting a house is renting a bad place. The taboos that you need to look for when renting are to see if someone has lost their life there before, whether there is good lighting and whether the house was built on a burial site. The signs of a good home are obviously good sunlight with abundant yang energy and a space filled with people's life. The guy who thought about this was called Chen Feng. He was born under an unlucky star. The first time he rented an apartment alone, he met with a suspicious agent. The demonic creature gradually began to approach the guy who was in the shower. Without realizing it, the guy suddenly felt a chill. There was silence in the house, and he did not hear a single creature that could make a sound. Opening the door to the bathroom, he wanted to understand who was in his house. At the same time, it was completely empty. There was no one here, but he had the feeling that someone was watching him. The guy thought that he was probably just a little nervous because this was his first time renting an apartment alone. However, that chill he felt, the feeling that someone was spying on him, was actually justified. With horror, he discovered a handprint on the glass. The guy did not notice when it appeared on the glass of the shower, and also, it was on the outside. Except that the handprint seems to resemble someone passing by the person who was spying on him. Realizing this, the guy realized that right now, someone was here. But this was not possible, because he did not think that anyone would spy on a guy like him. Arriving at the bed, he thought about what he needed to calm his imagination. He must have been hallucinating from fatigue, and the guy decided to go to bed early and rest. Suddenly, he felt a violent pressure that made him unable to get up. Alarmed, the guy thought about what happened and why his body didn't listen. The ghost held the guy's arms and legs and did not allow him to move. It was just a story that Officer Wei read, but she wasn't even scared. It was located in the ancient building of the Yushio District Library No. 3. While taking notes, she indicated that she was in the library, and nothing strange was found. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. From that moment on, the girl realized that she had finally hooked the spirits. The officer shouted out who was there because she wanted to know if it was a person or a ghost. There was only silence in response. No one answered her. The girl thought about it and decided that perhaps it was the library security guard. Footsteps were heard again, and they intensified. It looks like those steps are back again. The officer thought that these must be the so-called strange steps that were recorded in the case. It seemed like it was definitely the attacker. The girl had already managed to send information about herself to report the incident. Silence reigned again and nothing could be heard. The police officer had already sent a message to the team that she had encountered a target. Now she simply had to do something. The steps intensified even more and approached the girl. The lady began to walk towards the place where the terrible sound was coming from. Arriving there, she discovered that there was absolutely nothing in this place. At that moment, she realized that it looked like a frontal attack would not work. Her only option was to act like the victim and patiently lure out her attacker. The footsteps continued to approach, and the girl waited patiently for it. She really wanted to see where the phantom would launch its attack. The girl began to say that she was probably too nervous and just scared, and should hurry home to rest. Events continued to take place on the night streets. The officer has already started driving her car. Although she deliberately drove slowly, she was not sure that he managed to follow her. Arriving at the entrance, the girl began to wait for the elevator. Having gone up the elevator, the girl discovered that all her neighbors were now at home, and she wondered if her plan would affect her neighbors. There were no mentions of incidents involving neighbors in the case file, so everything should be in order, the girl thought. Opening the door, she began to enter her apartment. As soon as she entered, she immediately turned on the light. After going inside the apartment, she discovered that there was no sign that anyone had entered. After that, she thought that her plan had failed, but this suffocating and chilling feeling did not disappear, which means her plan still did not fail. She thought that perhaps there were some other conditions that were not met. Everything should be the same as in the case materials. The victim should be alone in a closed space. The lady tried to calm herself down so as not to lose her head. If this was a serial killer, and he had his eye on her, then she could not afford to give up so easily. Footsteps were heard again, but this time in the officer's room. From that moment on, the girl realized that her enemy had returned. The sound was coming from inside the room. She needed to notify her team so that they could come to her. With lightning speed, she started writing and wanted to send a message to the team. Since the enemy was in the room, we must use the camera that the girl specially installed. The connection to the camera began and the image was loading. Suddenly, the phone screen went dark and there was nothing on the image. A terrifying monster appeared in front of the girl and began to laugh loudly. Feng Jing saw something going on next door and wondered if they were so bored late at night that they decided to play with some ghosts. Suddenly, he realized that Officer Wei's apartment was next door, and she was in danger. Having broken the door, the hero immediately continued into the officer's apartment to save her. The entity held the girl, not allowing her to move. The ghost was literally pulling her out and was going to take her life. The girl thought that this was her team, and was glad that they had arrived, even though they were a little late. As it turned out, it was her neighbor named Fang Zheng who was going to save her from the evil entity. But the girl did not immediately understand who this hero was. For her he was still a stranger. With a brave movement of the blade, the hero neutralized the arrogant monster who was about to finish off the girl. The guy immediately realized that this was an unusual ghost, because he was quite fast. It turned out that this was a papier-mâché man. This is clearly just a papier-mâché man, but it was unknown why he had such dexterous hands. He was no different from an ordinary person. These ghosts were constantly becoming more and more strange. The papier-mâché man began to scream furiously as he opened his mouth in a terrifying manner, after which, he dropped the girl to the floor. With great speed, the hero began to run towards the villain, who wanted to take the life of the girl. Wei wanted to know who the person was whose body was emitting golden light. The hero used his strongest techniques, such as 9-yang ethereal chi, and the flaming wooden blade skill. Everything around the demon began to burn, and the demon itself also began to heat up. The battle continued, and the guy threw many punches at the papier-mâché man. More than 15 blows were delivered in one series of attacks. On the 16th attack, the ground began to crack, because the blow was so strong that it destroyed the floor. Everything around was on fire, the ground underfoot was being destroyed more and more. Fang Zheng realized that this paper pulp ghost was actually capable of dealing with more than 10 strikes from his blade. Well, the ghost shouldn't think that the hero won't be able to find him, he won't be able to hide in the shadows. The frightened ghost tried to hide in a small cabinet. Fang Zheng discovered it and hit this locker with all his strength to destroy the ghost. The now frightened ghost hid behind the sofa. Well, there he was noticed by the hero, who hit the sofa with all his might. There were flames all over the apartment, and gradually it all began to ignite. The girl started coughing and it was very hot. While concentrating on fighting the ghost, the hero noticed that Officer Wei could not cope with such a high temperature. He was already deliberately holding back his power, but it seemed that she was still suffering from severe dehydration due to the high temperature of this enclosed space. First, Fang Zheng decided to take her outside. With a whistle, the ghost decided to come out of the place where he was hiding. Using its power, the ghost hit the hero from behind, thereby delivering a surprise attack. The papier-mâché man broke through 15 layers of golden immune membrane in such a short time. This ghost is actually much stronger than the two halves of the ghost that the hero destroyed last time. Continuing to save the girl, the papier-mâché man laughed loudly and evilly behind. But the hero believed that this ghost was too arrogant, and he would be able to defeat him. It should be okay if he leaves Officer Wei outside, then he can take whatever steps he wants to deal with this ghost. Suddenly, an evil ghost began to attack from behind, and extended its bony hand towards the hero. The immune shield worked, and the insolent ghost was unable to attack Fang Zheng. Immediately after this, there was an attack of ethereal chi and the use of a flaming wooden blade. There was an explosion of gigantic proportions, and it seemed as if the phantom had been destroyed. Before, Fang was worried about Officer Wei, but now he can use his full strength. Thus, he easily slammed the demon directly into the floor, and wanted to attack with his giant fire sword. With flaming eyes, the hero wished only death for the ghost. The attack of incredible power caused an explosion and smoke spread throughout the entire corridor. A few minutes later the police arrived. Many police officers arrived at the building because they wanted to help the officer. Meanwhile, the girl was lying on her bed in the apartment. The officers were already next to her, and they were glad that she had finally woken up. The lady had absolutely no idea where she was. Looking around, she realized that this was her apartment. Despite her condition, the girl remembered how someone broke into her apartment. And it was the man who burst in. He saved her. His glow was too bright, so she couldn't see his face. The lady believed that he must have put her on the sofa while she was unconscious and covered her with a blanket. However, the girl still wanted to know the police version, and asked them what happened. When they arrived at the girl's apartment, it had already turned into ruins, and then they found Wei unconscious. Moreover, the police found 2 different energy residues in the apartment. The police also added that her lure plan last night failed and she should have warned about her intentions. At that moment, the girl realized that it was not the police who saved her. They didn't receive any messages from the girl last night, and there was no way they could send someone here ahead of time. From that moment on, the girl realized that she had been unconscious for almost 4 hours. But she was also wondering who the hell saved her. Fortunately, this time the girl did not get into trouble, otherwise, the officers really could not imagine what could have happened. Officer Wei's action was both courageous and reasonable. But no one even wanted to imagine what could happen to the girl. Perhaps their decision to agree to the girl becoming bait was reckless from the very beginning. The officer decided that they would reconsider the action and conduct an internal review to ensure this would not happen again. Even though they had to miss the killer and make 11, they were at least able to make sure that Officer Wei's conclusion was certain through this experiment. And now they have a more complete understanding of the progress of case number 11. The man believed that they would soon be able to solve it. But the girl added that they could already close case number 11, because she personally saw how the killer was destroyed by a man who appeared mysteriously. Surprised by what he heard, the man replied that this was impossible because another person had disappeared last night. Not expecting to hear this, the girl was amazed and dumbfounded. The man also added that people who reported missing said that before the person went missing, they received a call from the victim who said that he heard the sound of strange footsteps. This is exactly the same as with all the other victims in case 11. But there was one detail from last night's events that was different from the others. Previously, only one person would go missing each night. However, 2 people went missing last night. Some time later, events continued to occur in the city of Zhou, in a certain secret high-rise building. The workers of the unit discussed case number 11, now it will be called the papier-mâché man. Secondly, his speed was abnormal, and thirdly, based on preliminary analyses of the residual energy from the battle site, they can estimate that he is a level 4 or 5 heavenly dog. As for the 4th point, they suspected that the attacker in Maid 11 had the ability to create doubles. But there was another option, that these papier-mâché people were just puppets, and someone was manipulating them from the dark. They will conduct a thorough investigation of all papier-mâché stores, funeral paper stores, incense stores, and any other business related to funeral rites. They must also follow every 3-foot hole dug as a grave. The man didn't care if he had the same powers as the Monkey King who could create clones by plucking his fur. He didn't care what kind of scum was manipulating in the shadows. The stern man hopes that they won't have to endure the humiliation they faced when the undead king's upper body fled in case 10. And also, the man asked to inform all the employees in each district to keep an eye out for the mysterious master who suddenly appeared, rather than suspect that this awakened person who is deeply hidden among the common people. He must have awakened a very powerful bloodline and natural abilities. However, he hid his identity very well, so he may have used some kind of power against detection, which is why he managed to avoid the attention of the military. The growth rate of the mysterious guy was especially shocking. He woke up when all the spiritual energy returned to Earth on the night of the blue moon bloodshed, that is, in a short period of only 10 days. An awakened one without any means of cultivation guidance like him already has the ability to destroy a level 4 or 5 celestial dog. As a man with enormous destructive power and unclear motives, they do not know which side he is on, and the military must immediately find this hidden awakener. Fang Jing breathed a sigh of relief when the police finally left, because he had accidentally gone too far and trashed Officer Wei's apartment. The police said that the papier-mâché man was clearly burned by the flames of his 9-yang ether. But it was not entirely clear why this small piece of paper survived. It was also not entirely clear why he only received 1 thread of gray chi when he killed him. This tiny amount is completely different from the usual grains of a ghost. Perhaps, in the eyes of the human skin scripture, this abnormal papier-mâché man from last night is only considered a low-level monster. Or maybe it doesn't matter whether the hero is fighting a monster way above his level or fighting a boss, he'll always only get 1 damn gray thread of chi. Suddenly, a small piece of paper began to tremble, and with lightning speed he began to run out the door. From that moment on, the hero realized that the ghost wanted to escape, but for him it will be completely difficult, because the hero used the divine power of 9 yana. The little ghost tried to fight as if possessed and burned at the same time. Suddenly, at the pharmacy next door to the boss pharmacy of 4 Seasons, Yang felt for a second a sudden flash of ghostly chi. And unfortunately, the vegetables he cooked were burnt. This happened because the man was distracted by sensing ghostly chi. It was good that Fang Jing reacted, but it was not entirely clear why such an abnormal energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from him. but since the ghost wanted to run away so badly, then we should see who he is going to go to. Some time later, events continued in the city of Zhou, in the area of a bright peach blossom garden. The sounds of footsteps were heard again in one of the houses. The unknown girl who stood in the corridor was trembling with fear. She felt as if some creature was following her. In fear, the girl began to open the apartment into her room with trembling hands. The light in the room began to flicker, which scared her even more. With the help of her other hand, she began to hold the trembling hand and open the door. The door to the dark room opened with a creak. Immediately the girl began to turn on the light to protect herself. Feeling safe, she sat down on the sofa with relief. Suddenly, outside the door she again heard strange steps. The steps approached, and the door suddenly opened a crack. The creature making these steps looked at the girl with its red and burning eyes. Suddenly someone knocked on the door. It was a courier who shouted that there was a package for the girl. And the girl could no longer answer, because the creature kept her mouth closed. The lady struggled as best she could, but she could not utter a single word. A moment later, the man realized that impersonating a courier would not work.